Oh, the severe weather from yesterday that postponed the second race of the 2010 IZOD IndyCar Series has finally moved through the area. You can see a lot of the water that is still pooled around this racetrack. And we have just gotten word we're going to have about a 10-minute delay because we're looking at the possibility, instead of declaring this a wet race, to allowing the drivers the choice of going to slicks, which would make the start even more interesting. As you can see, the cars are on the grid, and we are going to get this race in today here in St. Petersburg. That's the view from high above, and some of those puddles, well, actually look like lakes, are not supposed to be there, but believe me, it's a lot better than it was. At one point, a lot of this track was literally underwater. There's some of the standing water issues that we still have. That's in the turn 4 and 5 area, but it is drying very quickly, and what we're looking at is a 10-minute delay, and you can see the safety team out there as they are going to try and get this to a dry condition so that everybody can start on slicks. Along with Scott Goodyear, Marty Reed, glad that you're with us. Even though it is a Monday and we're a day late, we're finally going to get this race in. And if you were a driver, would you have rather just said, let's start it wet and let us dry it out and then go?
Well, I mean, a couple of minutes ago, the track was certainly wet, but the wind that we have right now, the corners are drying out quite quickly. We've got the best drivers in the world here right now, so they're looking at what we're seeing, and they're saying to their team owners, you know something, I'd rather be on slicks because I know after 5 or 6 laps, I'm going to come in and change to slicks anyways. For the talented drivers, absolutely. For the guys that are maybe a little bit questionable in the wet, they're going to be sliding around a little bit. The first lap still is going to be very interesting.
Well, and then the thing to remember also, too, is that if we start on wets, then the red and black rule goes out the window. For more, let's get caught up with Rick DeBrule.
The tire strategy is going to be critical today, and obviously in most races, you really worry about two particular types of tires. You got the black sidewall tires, these guys right here. Those are good for the long haul. Then you've got the red sidewall tires. These tires are good for a short burst of speed. The rules say that you must use a brand new set. It's got to be a brand new set, and you must use them for at least 2 green flag laps. But the other set of tires that's coming into play is these right here, the wets. The question is, will this be declared a wet race to start? We don't know the answer to that just yet. That's the strategy that's going to have to play out. If they declare it a wet race, then those rules about the red sidewall tires I was telling you about, those are going to go back out the window. So the question comes down to, will it be starting as a wet race or a dry race? And once again, it's easy to know what the tires do. Figuring out the strategy and when to use them, that's when it gets complicated. Vince?
While the strategy may be something that teams are still discussing, the favorites role, well, that was settled earlier in the weekend. Yes, it may be Monday, but one thing has never changed. Team Penske is still the team to beat here at St. Petersburg. This team has won 3 of the last 4 races here at St. Pete. Helio Castroneves has won here twice before. In fact, when Castroneves won here in 2007, he led 95 of the 100 laps. Ryan Briscoe won here last year. Now, Briscoe picked the wrong tire for qualifying, so he'll start deeper in the field, but everyone knows he has been fast throughout the course of the weekend and will be making his way toward the front. And the third Penske driver, Will Power, he is full-time with this team now. He won the season opener at Brazil. He'll start from the pole today. And Jamie Little, when you ask up and down pit lane, who's the guy to beat? Everyone has agreed it's Will Power.
Absolutely, and one of those drivers saying the exact same thing, Tony Kanaan. But Tony Kanaan could be one of those guys to break up that Penske celebration they've been having all weekend long. After a lackluster 2009, he's really been on top of his game this weekend. He's been the strong point for Andretti Autosport, qualified on the front row. But his teammate, Danica Patrick, not faring so well. She's been at the bottom of the speed charts. She qualified in the back in 21st. Now, on top of that, she's working with a new race strategist in Tom Anderson. Now, he told me on Saturday he doesn't know Danica well enough to actually help her. So the two have a lot of adjusting to do. And on top of that, they've got to mix up their strategy today to get her to the front early. Marty?
All right, thank you, Jamie. Let's talk a little bit more about track conditions, because if you're a race fan, you know, anytime we get rain, it washes all that rubber away.
It really does, and it brings up all the oils and everything out of the racetrack itself. Remember, this is a city street course here that we're running on, so it's going to have a lot more in the pavement than we would generally see actually on a natural terrain road course. So I think for the first few laps here, even though it may be dry, it's going to be very slick. It's going to be what we call a green racetrack. It's almost going to be like coming here first thing on Friday morning when the course course was just put up and the cars were on there for the very first time. So for me, it's a 50-50 bet, but I think I would probably start off on the wets just to see where it goes. But you have to be back in and get on those dries as soon as it starts to dry out. Otherwise, your lap times are going to fail for that.
Well, the other thing that's going to be interesting is turn number 1. Remember, that is on a runway, an active airport runway, and there's a lot of paint down there. When that paint is wet, it's even more slick than ever before. Stay with us. We're coming back. ESPN's coverage of the IZOD IndyCar Series at St. Petersburg is presented by IZOD, the official apparel sponsor of the IZOD IndyCar Series, available at Macy's. And Honda, the engine supplier for the IZOD IndyCar Series. Well, the birds are loving all the water and the little worms and everything else that's brought up because it has been just torrential the last 12 to 14 hours. But the rain has moved through, and the track is drying out, and that's why they went to a 10-minute delay just moments before we came on air, and they're waiting to see if they can get this into a typical traditional type start where the teams can go with black or red combinations. We'll keep you posted on that. This can be a bear of a track when it's dry, let alone when it's wet. You want some examples? Well, let's give you one. How about Dario Franchitti? He he had real problems the first day of practice.
Well, in this course, you have to attack it if you want to get the lap times out of the car, but any small mistake, as we're going to see here as we ride on board with Dario Franchitti, he turns in, just makes a small mistake, goes into the barrier. Watch his hands. He knows he made a mistake. The frustration, a champion shouldn't do that.
And he is going to be starting 13th. He was playing catch-up the rest of the weekend. First time in 15 races he is not in the top 6 on a road or street course. Let's talk about this 1.8-mile layout and give you an idea.
Hey, Marty, we talked about how bumpy it is here because it is a street course. It's not a natural terrain course. So you're going on the city streets. You're dealing with the bumps, the manhole covers, the concrete patches that are here. And as you can see in this course, it's very tight. That turn 1 situation we're going to watch for on the start. It's going to become very slick. You talk about it being here on the runway. Watch for action there. It's almost single file, 4 through 9 in that back section. Again, very treacherous here, especially in the rain with the wetness conditions. Trees overhang that area. 13 and 14, we've seen a lot of spin-offs here in the last couple of days, so watch for that area too. It was very wet. We talked about a green racetrack. That's what's going to be. The run down here from lap 1 onwards into turn 1, great place to pass, and we'll look for a lot of drafting and pushing around in that turn there.
And that is the most of the St. Petersburg area we have seen since yesterday. It was just unbelievable. I can't remember the last time I was involved where a road or a street course was actually postponed for a full day because of weather. Usually we've been able to work it in somehow, some way.
And I think we have to really make sure that people understand that usually you can run on a course that's wet, but when you have standing water, race cars will hydroplane just like your road car. It becomes very dangerous, especially with walls on both sides.
Especially also when we had about 300 lightning strikes all around the area as well. Hey, how about if we talk to one of the legends of the sport as we wait for this final call to get the race started? Mario Andretti is with Rick DeBrule.
And let's talk about the tire situation. Obviously, it's race control that's going to make the decision as to whether they start on wet or dry. And we understand now it's going to be a dry start. But let's talk to Mario Andretti about if you were a driver and there's some puddles out there to deal with, it's slightly wet. As a driver, would you rather start on wets or would you rather start on dries?
Well, obviously, I think you'd rather start on dries and try to make it through because you're eliminating a pit stop, because it's a big penalty here when you talk about not just a stop, entering and exiting. So right now, the way conditions are, I mean, it's going to be a tough call for everybody, and it's not a black and white call. You could be really, really right or really, really wrong.
And once again, the race control just a moment ago declared it a dry race. So obviously that's out of the driver's hands. Now, we've talked about in the past the fact that you've made these decisions before, and, it's never black or white. It's a lot of grays, and sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong.
Yeah, but Rick, if they declare a dry race, that means you have a choice. You can go out on wets or dries. If they declare a wet race, you must be wet no matter what. So now that's where the decision of the teams, will make the difference. And it could be actually the decision of the race right now.
All right, Mario Andretti, a guy who's made that decision more than a few times, sitting watching to wait and see what happens.
And you can see some of the teams putting on the red alternate tires, including our pole sitter, Will Power. When we come back, we'll be getting ready to go green here at St. Petersburg. Back here at St. Petersburg, and look at the grandstands. A tip of the hat to the crowd here in St. Pete. A lot of those folks obviously are, well, don't get too close. We don't want to get them in trouble at work. Probably, and a couple of kids there, they're cutting class.
Well, it is spring break right now, so
that's true
for a lot of areas of North America, so they're probably down here enjoying the race.
That's the excuse they're going to give to the teacher for sure. All right, we've still got teams that are changing tires, so we are just moments away from getting the cars started. We talked to one of the legends of the sport. How about another, A.J. Foyt?
Well, Marty, A.J. Foyt and this race team, one of the few teams, about a handful of drivers that will be starting this race now on the sticker blacks instead of the reds, now that this has been declared a dry race. A.J., the conditions certainly a lot different here than what we've had during the course of the weekend in practice and qualifying. What went into your decision-making in regards to starting on the blacks other than the reds? Because you had to make this decision a couple days ago.
Well, we had to, and the other day when it was hot, it seemed like the reds started giving up after about 10 to 15 laps, and we had the same problem last year. So with us having to start in the back and have to charge, I felt like the blacks would be more safer for us, and we'll keep charging until, the first pit stop, and then we'll make a decision then. But I just felt like when we run the reds the other day, they give up on us about 8 or 9 laps, and I felt like starting back there that the blacks would stay under us longer.
Now, how does that strategy and that thought process change now that the track conditions are much different and it's not wet per se, but it's still damp out there on the racing surface?
Well, actually, the reds are going to be a lot better than this dampness. That's the reason we went to them when we was at Brazil, and it paid off. But you had to make that decision 2 days ago, and I'm not a weatherman, and so naturally I like to start on the reds, but we already made the decision, so we'll have to live with it.
Special talk then with Vitor about how he should approach these early laps on the blacks compared to what everyone else has with the reds?
Well, it's really not that much difference. It's just a little bit harder, it seemed like, and it takes a little bit longer to get temperature up. So he's a pretty cautious driver, and he knows what to do. So he's in that cockpit. I'm not. I'll let him make them decisions.
Oh, well, how about that? Letting Vitor make the decisions, AJ. We'll keep an eye on how Vitor starts the start of this race on those blacks. And as we said, a couple of other drivers that are on the blacks to start, guys. Of course, we mentioned Vitor, Dan Wheldon, Rafa Matos. Also on the blacks, Danica Patrick will start on the blacks as well. So, Marty, about a handful of drivers will be on the blacks as compared to the reds here at the start.
All right, thanks, Vince. You wanted to add something?
Well, and when he said, 2 days ago I had to make a decision. After qualifying in the IRL rules, you have to declare what tires you are going to use, reds or blacks. And now that it's gone back to being a dry race, then you can go ahead and have to follow that rule. So if you chose blacks, you're starting on blacks today. If you chose red, you can start on reds. And in this scenario right now, obviously, a lot of people would rather have the reds, I believe.
Tony Kanaan going to be on the reds, as well as our pole sitter, Will Power. And, of course, putting a period on Vitor Meira's story, coming back from that fractured back at Indianapolis last year, his first race back. He comes back at Sao Paulo in front of his home country fans and finishes on the podium for the first time for A.J. Foyt.
And I've spoken to Vitor, and when you come back from injury, because I've had this twice in my career with 2 broken backs, there's a lot of time sitting out. There's a lot of doubt in your mind whether you'll be physically fit by the time you get back into the race car with the high Gs that you have. And the second question comes in mind, and even Will Power said this after his broken back over at Infineon last year, you wonder if you will be quick enough. And both these drivers have proven that they can get past both those obstacles.
So Vitor Meira on the blacks. As you can see, the skies are clear, and the crowd that has returned is going to be rewarded with 100 laps around this 1.8-mile, 14-turn street course here on the streets of St. Petersburg. Let's go trackside to fire the engines.
Race fans, are you ready? It's now time for those most famous words in motorsports. Please welcome back Command Sergeant Major Marvin L. Hill as he gives the command.
Command Sergeant Major Marvin Hill.
Drivers, start your engines!
A command has been given. Jackson beginning with roll 1, please. Raise control, roll 1 hot. 2 hot. 3 hot. 5 hot. 6 hot. 7 hot. 8 hot. 9 hot.
right, you hear the IndyCar officials row by row. When you hear 3 hot, 4 hot, that is the row that they are standing in. That means both engines have fired in that row, and that's how the IndyCar Series officials run down the checklist. And Danica Patrick, with a lot on her mind, she'll be starting back in 21st position, 13th position there for Dario Franchitti, the defending series champion. And they'll all be chasing pole sitter Will Power.
And Marty, at the start of any race, you're always concerned as a driver. You're always on pins and needles, more so at a street course because it is very narrow, and especially a course like here where you have a long straightaway going into turn 1, and you know people will go in there 4 or 5 abreast. You just want to survive turn 1. Well, now put this into the slick conditions that we have with a very greasy racetrack because of the rain. The rubber is off the track, as you talked about before. It's going to be a challenge for all of these drivers just to get through the first lap. And the guy that has to lead the first lap will be probably Will Power. He's going to be the guinea pig out there to show the rest of the drivers just how slippery the racetrack is.
All right, this is the first of 4 pace laps where the drivers will get a chance to take a look at the entire racetrack. When we come back, we will go green, albeit one day late in St. Pete. Back here on the streets of St. Petersburg, we're getting ready for the start of the second race of the 2010 IndyCar season. We've got a total of 6 onboard cameras for you. As there you go from the top left, Elio Castroneves with the IZOD onboard, Dan Wheldon with the National Guard, Danica Patrick, GoDaddy.com, Dario Franchitti with Firestone, Marco Andretti with the Venom Energy Drink on board, and Ryan Hunter-Ray with an IZOD onboard camera. Starting grid is going to come across the top of your screen, and yes, that is Milka Duno, and she spun on the pace lap in turn 13 and 14. We can tell you that only 4 drivers have gone with the primary black tires. Those 4, Dan Wheldon, Vitor Meira, Danica Patrick, and Rafa Matos. They are all in the bottom half of the field. Everyone else in this 24-car field is on reds. If you make a change at this point and you say it's too damp for you and you go to wets, you pay a price.
You pay a price. You come into the pit lane during the pace laps. You change tires. You then go to the back of the field for the start of the race.
All right, let's listen in on Tony Kanaan's radio because he may be considering just that.
CK, when you get down there on track, if we need wets and we take them right, we go to the back of the field, but it's better than going into the fence. So your call and let us know what you think.
Just be ready. I might dive in at the last minute. I don't want to tell everybody what it is, okay?
So there you hear from Tony Kanaan. He's still not 100% sure.
Well, the track will be so slick. As I mentioned just a minute ago in the broadcast, when you come here on Friday, the track is green. It has no rubber on it. The track has reverted back to that same situation and maybe a little bit worse because all the oils are now coming out of the pavement because the rain draws that up. And yes, the track might look like it's starting to dry, but it will be very, very slick.
Boy, that's given up a lot of track position, though, going from second to the back of the field if you make that call. Here's what happened to Milka on the first pace lap in turns 13-14.
Well, and she has got the award this weekend for spinning in just about every session that we have had and goes ahead and stalls the car here. Now, the cars do have reverse this year, so on all road courses and street circuits, you have an opportunity to back the car out as long as you do not end up stalling it. But in this scenario, she stalled it, could not even get going forward.
Milka also had contact with the wall. It damaged the rear wing. That was the only damage she had in that one contact, and she's got it refired and working back towards the back of the field. She is starting in the 24th and last position. Let's talk about our GoDaddy rules of the race as we get ready for the start of this event.
Well, a scheduled 100 laps here, a 1.8-mile circuit, as we talked about. This year, I talked about the reverse situation. There is no onboard fuel management system for the drivers to adjust starting in 2010. With all the fireworks going off here in the background, very beautiful situation. And the overtake assist situation, 20 pushes you get to the push to pass, and it's 12 seconds each. And here, dry conditions, you'd probably have a minimum of 2 pit stops. But with the conditions here today, I expect to see a lot of people going off strategy, and we'll have to watch to see what goes on here at the very beginning. We heard TK talk about maybe popping in and getting some some rain tires. And Marty, you said you'd go to the back of the grid, but as his team said to him, it's better than sticking it in the fence.
That's very true. And going back to the push to pass, the overtake situation, one of our crew members came up with a great line yesterday when it was raining so hard. Instead of the button, you had 2 oars.
Yeah, that was the situation.
All right, the field is beginning to form up as they work their way. That is turns 8 and 9. We'll give you the turn numbers if you're not familiar with the track here. And you can see that the pace vehicle lights are out as they head down towards turn number 10. And this is a very tricky spot. A lot of contact has happened over the years here. Then from turn 10, you head up through that quick right-left 11 and 12.
And you can see by the edges of the wall, generally where the guys would take their cars out to the edge. In this scenario right now, it's going to be very wet there, so you're going to have to make sure you alter your line than what you are used to in the dry conditions.
Okay, remember the paint on the runway at turn number 1. It could be very, very slick. Pace car has pulled off. The field of 24 forms. And as they come down the front straightaway, the second race of the 2010 IZOD IndyCar Series is green. Wide through the corner.
Nicely done.
Calmer heads prevailed for the first time in years here.
And Marty, on that start, Tony Kanaan came out on the outside and started to accelerate too quick. Will Power very smartly, because he's the pole sitter, turned around and held back. As we're now watching Marco Andretti dive on the inside. A very nice move when the track is wet. But back to Kanaan for a second. He then had to slow up on the start. And in turn, Will Power then got the jump.
Conway has stalled the car in turn 2, so Mike Conway is right in the middle of the racetrack, and if they can't get him fixed... Oh, and Dario Franchitti has been turned around.
And both of those are probably results of spins of some nature. You can see the flat spots on all 4 tires of Franchitti's car.
Let's go on board with Dario Franchitti and show you what happened here.
Now this is just coming out of 1. There goes around 24, Mike Conway. And Dario's probably going to try and gas it, and it goes around. Remember, that's so slick here at any point in time. No traction control on these cars this year, so all you're doing is using your foot and trying to generate enough grip to get the car going forward.
If he can hurry, he can stay on the lead lap if they can get him refired. The team is standing by because obviously he's flat-spotted the tires. He did bang the wall with the left front at least. He's refired. And now the question will be... just if he did any damage to that left side of the car.
Well, and we talked about earlier on, you don't want to end up into the fence, but those guys were both very lucky. The difference here on a street course versus a natural terrain road course, on a road course you go off and slide into the grass and maybe into the gravel trip. And here in this situation, you're going to end up going into the wall.
And I don't know if Mike Conway got any help in his spin that set off this first reaction. And there is Conway as he has gotten refired as well. And he looks to be okay, like he had no contact whatsoever.
And it does not look like his tires are flat-spotted, as we could clearly see on Dario's car. But, you know, they're both at the back of the field right now. They might as well come in and, at the very minimum, put a full load of fuel into the car.
And right now, Dario stays out.
To catch up to the pack. He doesn't want to get caught behind, so he'll catch up. Get to the tail end of the pack that's just up a few corners ahead. The pace car will run around here at about 60 miles an hour. And Dario also has to wait for the pit lane to open.
And it just did open, so next time by, anybody who wants to come onto pit road can. To give you an idea with this early caution, the fewest we've ever had in the race is 2. The most we ever had was 7, and that was in last year's event.
Well, we might be up that way again. Now, Johnny Rutherford is driving around the pace car right now at 60 miles an hour. What they did say they would do in the driver's meeting is that he would accelerate up to about 85 or 90 down the front stretch just to avoid having people come in the pit lane and then coming out in front of the pace car. The on-track distance is a little longer than the pit lane distance.
So far, none of the cars, as we would expect, up front, did not come in to pit lane. We can tell you that the number 2 of Rafa Matos was a taker. He came on to pit lane. And there you see him. Vince, coming your way.
Yeah, Rafa Matos, remember, he's one of those that started on the blacks when just about everybody else started on the reds. They're just going to refuel. He's not going to change tires. He's not going to the reds. So Matos just takes the top off with fuel.
And there you see both Dario Franchitti and Mike Conway coming in. Vince?
Franchitti is in, looking for a little damage on that nose on the left front, and there is just a little bit of wing damage on the left front corner. They make the tire change, putting on the fresh black Firestones and topping off the fuel for Dario.
Here's one of the issues for Dario. Remember the rule, you have to have 2 green flag laps on those reds. He does not have that requirement met yet. Let's get an update on Mike Conway from Jamie Little.
Well, Mike Conway came on the radio and told his team all he did was stall it. He did not spin and flat spot the tires. Therefore, he came in, packed up full of fuel, and they kept the reds on.
So he'll be able to make that requirement very easily, but you want to add something there?
You know, we talk about the racetrack being very slick, but you can see in those pit stops just how slick the pit lane is. There could be issues there today also.
All right, Will Power is going to bring him around. Turns 13 and 14. Pace car has already pulled off. He is in control of the field, and it is going to be Power, Dixon, Marco Andretti, Helio Castroneves, and Tony Kanaan. That is your top 5, and we're racing again in St. Pete.
Look at the 2 different lines coming into turn 1 and even coming out of 13-14. Will Power decided to take the traditional, what we call the rain line, get off the usual racing line where there is usually a lot of rubber and a lot of grease and oil comes out of that area. And what he decided to do was to run what he believes is a line with more grip.
Boy, looking on the inside, Marco Andretti. He's in there hot. Can he make it stick? He's got the position. Give him second place.
Wow, he's got a car that is working absolutely tremendous. And you can tell that because he has the confidence to be able to get into the turns really, really hard. Richter Brule?
Talking about Marco Andretti, the weekend didn't start so great. Friday, they were a little out in terms of the setup they want. They managed to get it going and working during the course of the day. Throughout the course of the weekend, they got better and better. And into qualifying, they knew they were a top 6 car. They took a little bit of a gamble. It didn't go their way. But obviously, the car is ready to race. And this is what they were shooting for all weekend, to make sure when the car was fast, it was at the right moment. And this is it.
Boy, he is trying the outside of turn 13 and 14. As you look at our Firestone telemetry, watch him go up through the gears.
In the dry, you get up over 160 miles an hour. We'll see how it works here in the wet.
Big braking zone here, and he's going for the lead. And he's got it. Will Power surrenders first and may give up more. He does.
And Marty, when I talked to Marco the other day, he is a much more confident driver now than he was last year. I'm sure the changes within the team are starting to work very well for him. And now, more passing going on. Number 3, Helio Castroneves around Will Power also.
So our pole sitter, who's dominated all weekend, has been bumped back to 4th in less than 4 corners. And Tony Kanaan is all over his back wing.
Now, I'm not going to get too excited right away for Will Power because he's got a car that he knows works very, very well in the dry. And as this course starts to get some rubber down on it and the conditions start to get better, watch for his car to improve, and then he'll start to march up towards the front.
Justin Wilson in the 22, right behind. As you can see, he is running in this group as well as the battle continues up front. Ryan Hunter-Ray in the 5th position.
Ryan Hunter-Ray, another Andretti Autosport team. A little oversteer there, trying to get the power down. You want a great run going down the straightaway, and here we go.
And a pass for the lead with Dixon taking over the top spot. So the guys are getting very racy very early. So our 3rd different leader here in the early stages of this race. Marco Andretti 2nd, Helio Castroneves. There is Will Power a little bit further back. There's Alex Tagliani and Takuma Sato. Hideki Muto going through, and here's a pass back in, and that is Vitor Meira trying to work his way up through. He gets around Dan Wheldon.
And in the Dollar General car, the yellow 67 machine, Graham Rahal aboard Sarah Fisher racing car this weekend.
And he has been giving that car its best ride on a street and road course for quite some time. Sarah, be the first to tell you, she is not a road course specialist. And she put him in this car for 2 races. He's still trying to come up with sponsorship to be able to join a team for the remainder of the season. But nothing signed yet. Rahal right now running in 16th position.
Let's talk about Graham Rahal. It's been a very frustrating weekend. Remembering last year he was with Newman Haas, a team that had all of the setups, had done so well here in the past. They had pole last year. He won here 2 years ago. Moving to the Sarah Fisher team, he's had to bring a lot of that experience without a lot of that data that came with him. As a result, they have struggled all weekend. They make big changes Friday to Saturday. Didn't work. Bigger changes Saturday to Sunday. Still didn't work. But obviously he's doing his best out there right now. Vince?
Well, the 4-car of Dan Wheldon is up just one spot, but he has been racy, and this is a track in which he has won on once before, won in his championship season back in 2005 when he was with what was then Andretti Green. But now with Panther Racing, this is a team that needs to make some significant strides if they're going to compete for the championship, and Wheldon believes it's going to happen on the road and street courses. They think that they're going to be a much better team on courses like this one, and he's running strong, but still mid-pack at this point.
All right, let's take a look at the leaders down the front stretch here as we get ready to work lap 8 of 100. It is Scott Dixon in front, but look out.
Watch, yes.
Pass for second.
Saw that coming out of 13-14, caught the draft at the right moment. Helio Castroneves now past Marco Andretti.
So, action up front has been fast and furious here in the streets of St. Petersburg. Now, due to the weather and the change of plans, we're not going to be able to bring you side-by-side today. Here comes your race leader at St. Petersburg. That is Scott Dixon. Right behind him is Helio Castroneves. And now dropping back a little bit further in third is Marco Andretti. We've had 3 different leaders and 2 lead changes. Let's talk about the calendar, because coming up next on ESPN2, the NHRA 4-wide Nationals. They got rained out yesterday. John and Ashley Force in the funny car final. That should be a dandy. And NASCAR Now Roundtable at 6 Eastern today. That's also on ESPN2. Then the NASCAR Nationwide Series moves on to Nashville next Saturday on ESPN at 3:30 Eastern. And the next IZOD IndyCar Series event, the Grand Prix of Alabama, Sunday, April 11th, 3 Eastern, over on Versus. Boy, Dixon's car looking very strong. And remember, Castroneves, he started 5th in this field, has now worked his way up to 2nd. A little bit further back now, all of a sudden, Marco seems to be losing contact with the lead pair.
His car was so good out of the box in the very first couple of laps, and maybe the reds that he has on there don't agree with the setup that he has for his combination of springs and shock settings. But right now, that car will probably improve for him when they switch over to the black tires, which he spent most of the weekend on.
A lot further back in the field, you see that everybody is pretty much running in line, although here it looks like Conway was trying to take a look underneath, didn't have enough room. And much further back in the field, we're trying to bring in there is Danica Patrick, as she is struggling right now mightily, as she started 21st and is running 22nd. What's going on, Jamie?
Well, Marty, this is her 6th start here, and this is usually one of her better road courses. She has 3 top 10s here, but that has not been the case today. She started out 21st. She started on blacks, one of the handful of drivers who did so. She just came on the radio moments ago and told her crew, I'm being too conservative back here. And she is. She slipped back 1 spot, and she's 30 seconds back from the leader.
So now the question begins to be asked, when do you pit? You pit early, hope to catch a caution, and then regain track position at that point? We'll wait and see. Meanwhile, Scott Dixon is clicking off the laps up front, Vince.
It's interesting. This is one of the racetracks that Scott Dixon has not won at, and for a guy who leads the IZOD IndyCar Series in career victories with 21, he's been a series champ twice. You'd think this is a track in which he would have won on before, but he's been second a couple of times, and then you look at his results of the last 2 years, 16th and 22nd. Now, those haven't been because he's had bad cars necessarily, but just bad luck. So it's no surprise to see Scott Dixon and his Target Chip Ganassi racing team on the point here at St. Pete.
Well, you see where he's led 6 laps already today. We'll go back to last year. He led 51 laps at Mid-Ohio. He won that event, but then he only led 3 laps on the road courses the rest of the season. And he feels that that's the area where he cannot afford to give up the points like he did last year.
And he certainly is a driver that thinks about every racetrack that he goes to, and he knows that this one, as you mentioned, has to be an improvement if he's going to win the points championship.
Our first chance to talk about Simona Di Silvestro from Switzerland. She started 14th, has moved up 2 spots to 12th. Jamie, give us an update.
I'll tell you, she has been quite impressive. You remember back to the first race, her debut in the IndyCar Series in Brazil, she led 4 laps. That turned a lot of heads. I talked to her just before she got in the race car. They struggled a little bit when they unloaded, but she said this team has worked together and made the car so much better. That certainly has shown so far. She started 14th, already moving her way up. This is a very confident woman and somebody to keep your eye on.
And it's going to be fun to watch her development. And we look at this. It's Ryan Briscoe early into pit lane on lap 13 of 100, and he is going to the blacks.
A little slippery, as you mentioned, getting out of pit lane. This is going to be very treacherous. This little right-left combination, getting back onto the race course. And when these tires are cold, don't make a mistake on your out lap. The drivers tell me it takes at least 2 going on to maybe 3 laps to get these tires up to temperature where they start to have some grip.
Now remember, Briscoe started 19th, and we were talking about that go-off strategy, because now if a yellow comes out, he's already got fresh tires, fresh fuel, and everybody else will be falling in behind him. So we'll see if it plays out for Ryan Briscoe. Looking at whoever that was coming down there.
Sato. Now, I think in this scenario, EJ Vizo, I would imagine that he might have a radio problem right now in that KV car, and what he's doing is driving towards the wall to give them an answer. And we'll have to check in with them to see if that's the situation. But generally, that's what you do as a driver. If you don't have any radio communications and you can't hear something back and forth, you just bring yourself over to the pit wall to let them know that you have a situation.
Dario Franchitti, remember he had that early spin on the first lap. Dario right there has gotten around Danica Patrick, and he has now turned the fastest lap of the race at 1:04.7. Vince?
That's exactly right, and they just came over the radio. Barry Wanzer, who handles the strategy for Dario, and told him, you are the fastest one out there right now. Keep digging. Obviously, it's been an eventful weekend for Dario. He spun and had contact on Friday during practice. You noted, Marty, that he's already been around here in this race today, so digging out of a hole. But Barry Wanzer coaching him with positive feedback in how fast he is. There's a long way to go in the race, he told him. Still got to keep digging.
He is 21st right now. Danica running in 22nd. Ryan Briscoe in 23rd. We can tell you that Milka Duno has pulled into pit lane, and we're hearing that she has got some mechanical issues.
And, you know, in the situation we just saw there, a few laps ago, the blue car with Dario Franchitti was behind Danica Patrick. He's now in front. And when you're having a situation like that where you don't think you're being aggressive, as was reported from Danica, when the other driver goes past you, try to get on that tail box of that car and follow, and just to be more aggressive. She was not able to do that, because you can see the gap right now between Dario Franchitti and Danica Patrick.
All right, while she continues to try and figure out how to gain some speed on this 1.8-mile 14-turn layout, Scott Dixon's got all the answers right now as he's leading Helio Castroneves, Marco Andretti here in St. Petersburg. There's your race leader here at St. Petersburg, Scott Dixon, and he has opened up a bit of a margin now, a little over 2 seconds over second place, which happens to be Helio Castroneves. But the best battle is a little bit further back. Take a look at 3rd and 4th, because you've got Marco Andretti under attack from Will Power, and he's taking a look down on the inside, heading into turn 1, and he's got him, yes.
And that move was actually done back in the back section 4 through 9. Will caught up through the tight stuff and almost tried to do something in 10, and then made the pass going down the front stretch, which is the safe zone because of the width of the racetrack.
And you were saying during the break, it looks like Will's car is coming back to him.
Absolutely, you know, and give him credit for having the patience. Race car drivers are known for not being very patient when other cars are passing you. And in that scenario, he was very smart, because he knew his car would come back to him once the track started to change.
There is our current race leader. Let's check in on our Firestone lap leaders, and we'll be able to tell you that Scott Dixon has the most so far with 12, Will Power with 4, Marco Andretti with 1. You know, this is only the second race Scott Dixon has led at St. Pete. He led 36 laps in 2006, and he finished second that day to Helio Castroneves, the man who's tracking him down right now in second. There is Tony Kanaan. Kanaan currently running in the 5th position with Justin Wilson right behind him. And here we go. Take another look as you've got the Penske teammates going after each other, and Will Power takes over second place.
And there'll be no fight there because of the teammates and because it's early in the race. Otherwise, you would have certainly seen Vince Welch, Helio Castroneves make that a very hard pass for Will Power.
Well, and it's interesting, Scott, because Tim Cindric, who handles the strategy for Helio, had just come on the radio and told Helio that Power was coming and coming fast. So there was no surprise there, as he knew that Will Power had the fastest car between the two. And it's interesting, Power told me earlier in the weekend that he feels more comfortable now as part of the team as a full-time driver, and feels more comfortable recommending changes to the car that better suits his style. And he said, I think you're going to see a lot better performance and better results from me this year because of that comfort level. And Scott, as a former driver, you know, if the car's not quite right and you don't have the confidence to speak up about it all the time, it's going to make a big difference.
Certainly will, and he is a guy right now that I want to ask Tim Cindric what he thinks about him. He said his wheels are always in motion. All he thinks about is motorsports, Marty.
So as he comes down the front straightaway, let's go check in with Rick DeBrule. He's caught up with Alex Lloyd, who has just dropped out of the race.
Unfortunately, as a result of some suspension problems, but Alex is the first person we can talk to about what the track conditions have been like this morning from the start, and what's it like right now?
The track's okay. It was a little slippery to start with, but it really picked up grip pretty quickly. So, yeah, it's dry, it's a little slippery, but it's fine.
What about lines? Do you have to work a different line, or will the regular racing line work?
No, not really. Everything's as it was, just a little slipperier than before.
Unfortunately, slippery got you a little bit in terms of your suspension problems. Tap the wall and you're out.
Yeah, I don't know, the left front, they went in the warm-up, and today I radioed in saying my left front's just gone, and I just had zero grip on it, and it just slid up the track. I was trying to get it into the pits, and a couple of corners to go, the thing just didn't turn, and we just went straight and damaged the rear suspension, and that was it. So, yeah, I don't know what happened.
All right, Alex Lloyd out of the race.
Well, and you saw while they were talking that Hideki Muto came in and made a pit stop, so he has got fresh tires and fuel. Meanwhile, there is your race leader, Scott Dixon, and the gap is widening now as we look at the battle for Tony Kanaan, as he has got mirrors full of the 22 of Justin Wilson.
And talk about a driver that can attack on a street course, Justin Wilson. But when you think about Tony Kanaan, the experience he has and the ability to drive around a road course and the improvement of Andretti Autosport this year, again, another driver that I feel is very confident in what's going on. And he's talked about the addition of having Ryan Hunter-Reay join that team. And both their driving styles are similar, their setups are similar, and that they think that between working with the cars on both of their setups, they will have an improvement on making these cars faster throughout the season.
Well, Justin looks like he is faster right now, just can't find the right position to set him up for the pass. He is all over him. That's through turns 11 and 12.
And what Justin's doing is actually just giving him some notice, making him aware that he's here. Watch, he'll do the slice move, try to get underneath him. He takes a different run coming out of 13, 14, catches the draft, get up to 6th gear, probably about 160 miles an hour, try to slingshot on the inside. Will he get it done?
Remember that? Oh, and see how slick that paint is on that runway? He manages to hold on and takes over the spot. And there is a Graham Rahal, and all of a sudden he peels off and is coming down pit lane. So Rahal in 15th position for his first stop. Rick?
And remember, this is the first pit stop with this Sarah Fisher Dollar General team. They come in, they're making one minor adjustment on the front right wing. They make that. Remember, they've been searching for a good setup all weekend. Clean stop, and they're away.
I can tell you, Alex Tagliani also made his pit stop, 11.1 on the clock. There is Sarah Fisher, team owner. She'll be back in the car when it's on the ovals. And we already mentioned the fact Graham will be driving this car one more time at least. Coming down the front stretch, there is your race leader, Scott Dixon, as he has now led 17 of our 22 laps that we have completed. His lead is now 6.6 seconds over Will Power. So while he continues in control, there's still a lot of racing to go. Stay with us here at St. Pete.
Here we go. The yellow and white car of Hinchcliffe gets the early jump, and he's going to lead the field down into turn number 1. They spread out 4 and 5 wide behind him, and now we have contact. Hinchcliffe makes contact and is run off. Here we go back to green. Vernay's going to take a look to the inside of the Lucas Oil car, and he's going to get him even before they get to turn number 1.
Checkered flag is out. J.K. Vernay.
And that was yesterday's Indy Lights race, and J.K. Vernay really ran away from the field. At one point, he had a 27-second lead before a yellow came out, and he just dominated. He was putting on 2 seconds a lap on everybody, so congratulations to J.K. What's going to happen here is there is Scott Dixon as he is looking for his first win here in the streets of St. Petersburg. He's finished second here twice. He's approaching Graham Rahal to try and put Rahal a lap down. Oh, no, we've got a crash. Takuma Sato is into the barriers at turn number 4.
Exact same place where Dario Franchitti hit the wall the other day. Very bumpy street circuit we talked about. It just takes one minor slip, and we're only talking about a turn-in point, changing it maybe by about 6 or 8 inches. You can be on a certain bump and lose the front end, and off you go into the tire barrier. Now let's watch in this replay. A little bit of a defensive line he's doing right now, and that causes the arc to be way too tight for him to be able to get through, and the 14-car Vitor Meira slides through on the inside. So he'll go back and rethink that one. You can see how the tires are just locked up and into the tire barrier.
And that was a battle for 9th on board with Dan Wheldon. He's right behind these two.
And watch, he sees everything that's going on. The cars on the left are on the right portion of the racetrack. Very difficult, even in prime conditions, to make that tight turn for Sato. And remember, he crashed in that very first race back in Brazil, Jamie Little, and he didn't get past turn 1.
So this was really his first official race. Now, unfortunate for him, it's been 5 laps. He has been telling his team, my left front is gone. I need to pit. They said, stay out. We got to stay in our window. Stay out. Every lap, guys, he's been begging to come in, and unfortunately, it ends in the tires.
Well, and that'll be the communication that they will go over, and maybe next time. Remember, he's a former Formula One driver. Really didn't start racing until the age of 20. By 23, was running in F1, and now finds himself over here in the IndyCar series, making the big adjustments from having all those wonderful heavy-duty brakes.
Well, you know, we talked about that the other day, you know, when we met with him. You know, 20 years of age to start. A lot of these drivers now are 19, 20 getting into IndyCars. He had 91 F1 starts. His best finish was actually at the U.S. Grand Prix, and he finished 3rd over there. Just a very likable driver, and I think he's got great things coming in this series once he can get to the finish line.
Pit lane is closed right now, so everybody will continue around one more time. That will give us an opportunity to step aside for a quick break. And here's one more look at Takuma Sato. It just didn't work out today in those beautiful Lotus green colors. As you can see, the leaders are pulling down pit lane. Let's go to Rick DeBrule.
Marco Andretti brings the car, and they're making no wing adjustments. They are making some tire adjustments. He's off, Vince.
It's the 9 car, Scott Dixon, your lap leader so far. They came in, took off the reds, and put on the blacks. Elio Castroneves in the box right behind him did the same.
Oh, it's going to get tight on that exit. On board with Elio. Everybody sort of sorts it out. No contact.
The pit lane is still very wet, especially the pit box. As you can see, the tires spin so much when the drivers drop the car off the jacks and let the clutch out. All that horsepower going to the rear wheels, but just no traction.
There's our Apex Brazil race off pit road. You can see the Castroneves picked up one. Will Power loses one. Ryan Hunter-Reay, the big winner in this, as he picks up 3 spots to move into 4th. And there's the rest of the top 10 cars on the race off pit road.
Oh, we got a bit of a parking lot happening here, so hopefully nobody stalls their cars. The guys coming around the turn right there will be jamming on the brakes and hopefully not ending up into anybody. I guess it was because the truck off to your left-hand side was getting off the course for some reason. And very slow crawl. And that would be the track sweeper, I'm going to gather. He probably didn't realize that even going slow, IndyCars get around there in a very fast pace.
And trust me, he's going to win the argument between him and any IndyCar. Yeah. And there's also a wrecker out there as well. See, off to the left side there on the hook is Takuma Sato's car, as that too could have been part of the issue as well. Now, remember we told you about Vitor Meira? Well, he started 17th. He stayed out. Guess who's got the race lead? That's right. ESPN's coverage of the IZOD IndyCar Series at St. Petersburg is presented by IZOD, the official apparel sponsor of the IZOD IndyCar Series, available at Macy's. And Firestone, the first name in Indy racing. Well, Vitor Meira has yet to make a pit stop, but has cycled his way through, and now being given a wave around past the pace car. I'm trying to figure this one out. And we're being shown 1 to go. And yes, he is the race leader. And that vehicle right in front of him is Romancini. He is trying to get back around onto the lead lap. And now they're saying that the 14's going to have to slow down a little bit.
I wondered where he was going.
Well, if you remember, back last year at the Indianapolis 500, a frightening moment for everybody and a very painful one for Vitor Meira as he and Rafa Matos get together into Turn 1.
Turn 1, Indianapolis, about 230 miles an hour, and not intentionally done, but you can see what happens when 2 wheels touch. And that was a scenario. Now, this was back here in Brazil, the very first race, and Vitor Meira making a great move underneath Rafa to get that hometown advantage and being able to stand on the podium.
And Rafa Matos, again, will be right behind him in second place. Now, they are going to have to reorganize this start because I was wondering what was going on because all of a sudden he went firing past, and now he's going to have to hold up and wait for the field to come back and catch up to him. So that'll give us a chance to squeeze in another quick break. Stay with us, and we'll return for the restart here in St. Petersburg. Well, the NASCAR Nationwide Series heads to Nashville next week, where someone will walk away with the Gibson Les Paul Trophy, and hopefully it'll stay in one piece. There's been 5 different winners in the last 5 Nashville Superspeedway races. It's next Saturday at 3:30 Eastern on ESPN2, and we hope to see you there. In fact, I did talk to Kyle Busch. Remember, he slammed it last year after winning the race, and he says, no, I want to win it this year, and I want to keep it all in one piece. So we'll find out what happens next Saturday. Right now, let's clear it up. It was Rafa, or I should say Romancini, getting the wave around, and unfortunately, Vitor misunderstood. As we go back to green flag racing, he gets back into line. He's the race leader with Rafa Matos second, Dario Franchitti third, Ryan Briscoe fourth. Remember, these guys are all on different strategies now.
You saw a move with Hideki Muto just almost trying to get back past the BMW car of Alex Tagliani, but he couldn't get it done. Remember, the tires are still going to be just a little bit cold, and is he going to try it now?
Yeah, Hideki Muto's going right underneath Tagliani. He's going to take over that 5th position. That's Mario Moraes in the 32, and there is Scott Dixon, who's led the most laps here with Graham Rahal right behind him.
Now, these guys up front didn't pit. They pitted earlier, so a little bit different race strategy that they're calculating right now. Have to wait to see what happens here in the future with the way the yellows fall. And as we go around this racetrack, you can see a lot of the banners are starting to come off the wall, especially there on the exit of 9. I have noticed as we ride along with Castro Neves, and he squeezes his way through past Rahal, and that costs Rahal another spot also, as Will Power takes advantage of that.
What a brilliant pass. Very, very gutsy by both those guys, and Graham Rahal gave him enough room as he drops 2 positions. And there you see our race leader, Vitor Meira. Second place, Rafa Matos, Dario Franchitti now running in third. There's Dixon sticking his nose out, trying to take a look underneath, and he gets chopped, and he loses the wing.
Oh, Moraes cuts across the front of the bow and breaks the wing on Scott Dixon's car. So does that mean another problem for Dixon?
And Moraes has a flat, and now Dixon can't see. There's no way he can see right now with the way that end plate has come up. He can look out the right side of the car, but boy, turning left right now, that's got to be just awful.
Well, it's also a bit of feel. You know exactly where you've been around this racetrack for the last couple of days, and a veteran and a champion like Scott Dixon will not make a mistake on the in-lap here, but certainly he's radioed in saying, I will need a new front wing.
And we can tell you Moraes suffered a cut tire in this incident, so he is slow on the racetrack as well. That's Will Power going underneath Dixon. Boy, Dixon had led a total of 21 laps, and this was one of those races he was pinpointing in the championship chase. Let's go back and take another look.
Now, you might question who's in the right and who's in the wrong here, but is Dixon far enough along? Maybe not. Could Moraes have given him more space? Absolutely. They could have got through there. Your next turn is a left-hand turn, and I would say that Moraes could have continued to keep the place there without taking the nose off of Dixon.
And Dixon has pulled in, and so has Tony Kanaan. So Kanaan has come into pit lane. The nose is coming off.
They will refuel the car, put a fresh load of fuel on it. Probably a little longer here than sometimes it takes, but...
And Tony is getting a wing, and we did not see what happened to him. And Marco Andretti is in as well. So some very quick early pit stops here.
Well, Marco may have run over some debris, and maybe that's why he's come in and changed some tires.
Rick DeBrule, what can you tell us?
That is exactly the case. He ran over something. As a result, got a flat. They came in, changed tires, put him back out as quickly as they could.
And right after the incident with Scott Dixon, Tony Kanaan yelled, my wing is broken. I have no front wing. So he came in, as you saw, replaced it, Vince.
Well, it's Scott Dixon. It's bad luck for Dixon again. Remember last year he had one of the better cars in the race, but Will Power came into a pit stop and parked in Dixon's box. That was the issue that dropped him back in the field in a 16th place finish. Now here's Vitor Meira, who was the leader of the race. Remember, he's on a different pit strategy than the rest. They're going to go back and stick with the blacks. That means he's still going to have to run the reds at some point today. But a clean stop for Vitor Meira, the ABC supply car for A.J. Foyt.
That is his first pit stop. He made it a total of 34 laps and now gets back onto the racetrack. And boy, the complexion of this race, how quickly it has changed for so many of the competitors. And there is your new race leader, our 5th different leader, as Rafa Matos is out in front.
And directly behind him in the Continental machine, Dario Franchitti, who had his own excitement at the very beginning of the race.
Now remember, Matos and Franchitti both pitted on lap number 2 in that first caution. So it's a question of how much farther they can go before they will have to, again, come to pit lane. Boy, Franchitti took a look inside, couldn't get it done.
Yeah, just not close enough, but he's actually just giving Mato, and Rafa just sends it sideways a little bit because he knows, because Dario's been filling his mirrors, he knows that Dario's a little bit quicker than him. Get the car just a little bit sideways.
We can tell you that Vitor Meira comes back out on the track after leading in 17th position for all you A.J. Foyt fans, as this battle up front continues. Scott Dixon will also be able to tell you is now running in 18th position.
Now, as you mentioned, with these two cars being on different strategy, they're going to try and run as strong as possible, maybe trying to conserve just a little bit of fuel so they can make this run as long as possible. See if they can get this done.
Now remember, they do have an overtake position that they can push to pass. See if Dario's going to use it here. It'll go green if he decides to step on the button. You can see that each of them have used it. One twice, the other 3 times. You get 20 of these 12-second overtakes.
Yeah, Dario's not getting out of turns 13 and 14 strong enough, Marty, to be able to get close enough to be able to use that.
We're hearing that Rafa Matos will be heading for pit lane this lap. He led 2 laps at Long Beach last year. That's the only time before today that he led. Look at this freight train coming through turns 2 and 3. That's Elio Castroneves. You're saying, how can I tell the Penske cars apart? Elio's got the orange mirrors and the orange wing plates. Will Power has got the black mirrors, black wing plates. And the white is for Ryan Briscoe. And there is the difference between the 3.
And with this race course, if you're faster, for instance, if you're Mike Conway, that's at the back of this train right now, it's very difficult to be able to get past cars. Only about 3 opportunities to pass here every lap, and that's going down into turn 1, and then we see some action going down to turn 4, and occasionally in turn 10 where we just came out of. But to get a pass done going down into turn 1, you have to come out of 13 and 14 really, really strong. You take advantage of a draft, and we're going to watch some of this here now.
And Rafa Matos is into pit lane, Vince.
Remember, Matos had the outstanding run at Brazil in which he finished 4th, but they have struggled all weekend long trying to find the right grip on this car to make him comfortable. They started out on the black tires, but now they've gone to the softer compound and the reds. They're still waiting to finish the fuel load, and they've got it in a way. Goes Rafa Matos.
And that means the lead now hands over to Dario Franchitti, our 6th different leader today, with our 5th lead change. And well, we may have had to wait 24 hours, but what an incredible race that has unfolded, as there is Dario. Remember, he is due for a pit stop, and now in 2nd place is Ryan Briscoe with Hideki Muto shown in 3rd. There goes Briscoe, and a little bit further back will be Hideki. Now remember, Briscoe last pitted on lap number 12, so he can go a lot further, and the 06 pitted on lap 19, so he's even got a bigger window. And then further back, you've got 4th place, as you see that battle. And here's the freight train on back with Tagliani in 5th in that 77. Then Will Power, Justin Wilson, Ryan Hunter-Reay, and look on the inside. Conway's taking a look underneath Vizo. Can he get it done? Yes.
And that was the opportunity we talked about, coming down the main straightaway here at this airport circuit, and probably uses the power assist button to be able to get that deal done.
Nose to tail racing in the IZOD IndyCar series. This has been very entertaining. We hope you are enjoying it. There's Tagliani in that 77. He will be in that car full time this year. And in the back of the screen, there is Danica Patrick. She has moved her way up to 14th now as we go on board.
What she needs to do is to drive hard enough to get herself right to the tail end of that group, so if some things start to happen, she can take advantage of it. Usually when you're running nose to tail like that group is up front, as we can see the battle coming down the front stretch now, going into one at 160 miles an hour. Usually the group runs a little slower than you can individually when you're running from the back.
Well, and the reason this freight train is sort of being held up, that's Mario Marias in front. He is a lap down in 21st position. I guarantee you Tagliani's all over the radio saying, tell this guy to get out of the way. But he is not giving way, and you can see about 6 or 7 cars right behind him as Conway's trying to find a way to get around Graham Rahal at the very back of this run. That's through turns 8, that's turn 9. Let's move up to the battle for second place as Ryan Briscoe and Hideki Muto are going, or that's Elio Castroneves, I should say, with Hideki Muto. That is for third.
It looks like Hideki's probably getting his car through that section just a little bit better. Let's see how Elio does in the main straight. Hideki's better, power down, comes out of the turn strong. Elio's not close enough to be able to take advantage of the draft. Let's see how he does under braking right now.
And our race leader has pulled off, Vince.
Dario Franchitti, remember, he spun early in the race. That put him toward the back. They've just put on black scuffed tires and topped off the fuel for Dario Franchitti. He led a race-high 29 laps last week in Brazil, but finished 7th. He's had some fast laps here today, but he's had to come from the back after that early spin.
Well, we now gives the lead over to Ryan Briscoe, our 7th different leader. And then our record is 8, with our most lead changes being 9. We've had 7 and 6 today. And there you see the gap back to second place, Hideki Muto. And there is Ryan Briscoe. Briscoe, of course, back at Sao Paulo, had the race lead, stuffed it into the wall. He doesn't want to do that again today. And he's still got 60 laps of racing to go. You're looking at our race leader, our 7th different leader here at St. Petersburg, Ryan Briscoe. He's run 15 road and street court races since joining Team Penske at the start of 08. He's now led in 11 of those 15 races, and he's out in front of Hideki Muto and Elio Castroneves by 2.2 seconds. And there is the battle for second place as they go heading towards turn 10.
Elio's been catching up to him, working hard. Getting under braking seems to be his strong suit, but you have to get out of 13 and 14 to get that run down the straight to get a clean shot. He just does not seem to get through the switchback there. 11-12. Now, this was a better run here. He's got to take advantage of it, maybe using his push-to-pass power to assist, but you can see how he just spins those tires on your Firestone telemetry. Watch the speed. Should be up close to 160. About 157. Got to be closer coming out of 13 and 14 to be able to take advantage for the run down the straightaway. You can listen to the throttle. Still not completely confident on full throttle. Getting through 2 and 3 there. Going through the section here, going 4 through 9. Now, this was definitely second gear all the way through here. Single file. Now, hard on the gas. The back end slides around a little bit because the road falls off there because of the crown in the road. Through the kink, down the straightaway here. You can see on the track map, number 6, Hideki Muto. The number 3 of Elio Castroneves. Now, going through the switchback is where he's off the gas just a little, and that cost him time. Under braking. Now, this is where he's got to get good power down. See, he rolls on the throttle, cannot commit. He's got to get closer, Marty, if he's going to have the opportunity to make that pass down the front straightaway.
Give credit to Hideki Muto. He is driving a very strong race right now. Remember, he last pitted on lap 12, or I should say on lap 19, and then it was Castroneves on lap 27. So Elio will eventually inherit this position just through the fact that Hideki's going to have to pit first. Let's move a little bit further back, and you can see that Will Power comes into screen. There is the waving flag for Marias to try and get out of the way, and he still hasn't moved over, and look at the logjam it has created.
And as frustrating as this is for a driver, you love this. The battle, the car in front, the car behind. You're trying to make some ground on the guy in front, waiting for him to make a mistake that you can get past, and you're also protecting your backside. So in this scenario right now, frustration, but it's a great time inside the cockpit.
Well, it has been 33 laps since Ryan Briscoe hit pit lane. He is due. Stay with us. Just as we come back, we have had a crash going down into turn number 1 involving the 32 of Mario Marias and Dan Wheldon. And there is Marias, and there is Wheldon. Trying to see if there was anybody else involved in this, as we had parts and pieces flying all over the place.
Speaking to Dan this weekend, he certainly expected good things out of this race also. Remember, a great run for that Panther team aboard the National Guard car in Brazil. And sometimes his strong suit has not been the road courses, even though he has won here back in 2005. Now, we talked about the wide entry going into 1. Let's look to see how great this is. Oh, and I can tell you what's going to happen right here, right now. Just going in too quick, locking up the wheels, the number 4 National Guard car.
Well, remember, Marias was at the beginning of that long line, so something looked like it happened to his car, and he had sort of moved over. See, he's slowing, and Dan just can't turn it in quick enough.
No, and it's interesting how that left front locks up even when he's going straight.
Let's listen and watch from on board Dan Wheldon.
No, I think something broke on that car to send him off like that, because when he went to get on the brakes, it sounds like maybe even the back end locked up. Because if anything, you shouldn't be really locking up that left front. See his wife Susie right now, obviously a little disappointed with that. But the scenario, really, when you're going into the turn, if you're going to lock up one of those wheels, it would be the wheel that's going to be unloaded, and that would be the right front. But you heard a lot of noise in the car just as he got off the gas and onto the brakes, so it makes me wonder if maybe something in the rear suspension broke and made the car teeter-totter to lock up that left front wheel.
Well, obviously it's going to take some time to clean up the debris that is down in turn 1. It gives us a chance to show you one more time. And as we go to break, boy, you can just see how the speed differential between these two cars. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to both drivers. Stay with us. Under our third caution here at St. Petersburg, Florida in the IZOD IndyCar Series, and pit stops are looming, and what a huge break for the 6, our race leader of Ryan Briscoe, because he was due for a pit stop, and now he will get to come in, and just about everybody else is going to follow, and here they head down pit lane. Rick DeBrule, it's all yours.
Hideki Muto brings the car in. Remember, he was running in second place. Interesting, they're going to move to red tires, and because they're going to the red tires, they're going to make a minor adjustment on the front wing. Half a turn up, but they like it. Now they got to send them back out. Jamie?
Ryan Briscoe says the car is good. They get air pressure in all 4 tires, filled it up with fuel, Vince.
Elio Castroneves came in, and as you see, a little bit slow getting out, but one of the breaks that Elio had is that Scott Dixon elected not to come in, so Elio had a clean exit out of the pit box.
And several cars stayed out, including their teammate on Team Penske, Will Power. Scott Dixon stayed out. We'll sort it all out for you. Look at all the debris on the 12th car, Will Power. It looks like he picked up a banner somewhere along the racetrack. On the front wing and on the rear wing. Don't think it'll cause any problems.
Now, here's the replay. We talked about Dan Wheldon. You can see that right rear suspension is broken, and that's why he locks up that left front wheel. So that is not Dan's fault. Remember, that's at 160 miles an hour, and he's going into the turn. Now, as we're going to watch from the rear here, you'll see Dan's car come into view, and we're going to stop it there for you for a second, and then just look at that rear wheel. That is up off the ground, and the car is now just going along, and he is a passenger. And unfortunately, he takes out the 32 of Marias in tow. And as a driver, when you get hit blindsided like that, poor Mario Marias just doesn't know what happened. Vince Welsh?
Absolutely confirming that, Scott, and just speaking with members of the National Guard team for Dan Wheldon, confirming that there was something break in the back end. They said they couldn't tell exactly what it was, but they certainly appreciated the replays that we were able to show them, because that confirmed their thinking that indeed something had broken. And it's always good to know that it's a mechanical issue and not a driver issue when you're all the way over here on the pit lane.
And that's what's left of Dan Wheldon's car. Now, the top three did not pit. Will Power, Justin Wilson, and also the 8 of EJ Viso. Stay with us. While we've got a moment, let's talk about the NCAA Women's Championship. It continues on ESPN Monday with the regional finals. At 7 Eastern, it's Baylor and Duke. And then, following at 9, Xavier and Stanford, all of it on ESPN. The Women's Championship presented by Capital One on ESPN Monday. It's the exclusive home of the NCAA Women's Championship. Back here under our third caution. We've had 7 lead changes between 7 different drivers. And let's hear from Dan Wheldon and get his perspective on what happened. Vince?
Well, Dan, looks like you're a little bit sore from the incident, but first of all, we saw the replay of the right tire coming up off the ground. At what point did you feel something break in the car?
Just under braking, but I got to say the National Guard boys and Panther Racing have done a superb job. I thought we were running, very strongly. We'd positioned ourselves well. We had a good strategy, and these things happen in motor racing. There's, troops out there in Iraq and Afghanistan fighting to enable us to roam this country freely, so that's nothing.
Physically, we saw you look a little stiff as you walked over here. What's feeling painful on the body?
No, nothing too bad. It's just it was one of those kind of big hits. I got to say sorry to the KV crew for just hitting Mario, but yeah, probably got lucky on that one. But just goes to show you the National Guard Panther Racing team. We're really going to be a force to be reckoned with, and I'm proud to represent all the troops and everybody from the National Guard.
2005 St. Pete winner Dan Wheldon, done early today. Marty?
And a very tough break for Dan, as that team was trying to move forward in the field. Take a look at the top 3, and you can see Power, Wilson, and Viso. Now, they last pitted on lap 27, and then in 4th place, Simona Di Silvestro. She pitted on lap 29. And then in 5th, you've got Danica Patrick, as she pitted also back on lap 27. We're still under yellow. Let's step aside for another quick break as the sun has come out in St. Petersburg. Just as we come back to St. Petersburg, we're back to green flag racing, just past the halfway mark with now 47 laps to go. It is Will Power, Justin Wilson, EJ Viso, Simona Di Silvestro, and look out, there goes Dixon around the 14 of Vitor Mira.
And Dixon's car with a part of a banner on the front wing. We've seen a few cars carrying the banner. You can see right now also the 12 of Will Power.
And there you see as he has gotten around Franchitti. So Dixon continuing to move forward. Danica Patrick currently running in 5th position.
That is a great run for her. She said to me yesterday, I know I'm a better racer than I am a qualifier, and I just got to get out there, get into a rhythm, get into a pace. She's the biggest mover right now, up 16 spots, which is pretty good. No doubt these yellows and a different race strategy has assisted her. Now she's just got to keep her foot on the pedal and stay up towards the front of the queue.
Well, the guy you have to keep your eye on is right behind her there, Scott Dixon, because remember, he pitted on lap number 40. Everybody in front of him was lap 27 or 2 laps later on lap 29.
Now watch, Scott will be on the gas and try to get a run with her, maybe even push the pass button. He'll try to get a slingshot here. Watch for him to pop out up to 6th gear, about 160 miles an hour under braking. And stick his nose in there. Okay, now you've got Scott Dixon in front of you, and Danica Patrick. You need to keep up and run his pace if you can, because you know he's going to march towards the front.
So Dixon back in play here with this yellow. The other guy who benefited from it, as we mentioned, was Briscoe. And whoa, and there is Franchitti as he has peeled off and has taken a full load of fuel. Vince, what was going on there?
Franchitti had a flat left rear, so he had to come in and get that tire change. Of course, they made the tire changes and took that opportunity to top off in fuel. Man, what an eventful day it's been for Dario Franchitti, huh?
Boy, that's for sure, as he now stops on lap 54. He had only had 14 laps on those tires, and so a bad break again.
Well, bad break, but, you know, he didn't pitch it into the wall. Now these drivers have on their electronic dash. As we're watching Scott Dixon now trying to chase down Simona, they have an ability to bring an alarm screen up on their dash that tells them that the tire pressure is going below a threshold. The driver will see it on their electronic dash, as the team will in pit lane via telemetry. So, two interesting ways here.
You saw the light on Di Silvestro light up green. That means that she was on the power assist. She is trying to hold off Scott Dixon right now.
Very impressive, this young lady. Spoke with her yesterday. A lot of confidence. Has done a great job here learning tracks, learning these big cars, more weight, more horsepower, a little bit more downforce. And she pushed that button to keep ahead of Scott Dixon, maybe because she didn't get out of 13 and 14 to get that run down the straightaway as she would have wanted. But right now, Dixon seems to have the faster car.
She's 21 years old, from Switzerland, and doing very fine.
Vizo. And that was a cause because he scrubbed the wall back in 10. I would imagine he's knocked the wheels out of alignment there. We'll see if he actually is going to have some handling problems.
All right, let's watch to see if the push to pass is used by either of the drivers this time. Vizo back up the speed. Yes, Steve Silvestro did push.
Now that, when you push it, goes for 12 seconds. She seems to be pushing it halfway down the straight, maybe looking in her mirror to see whether or not Dixon's going to take a run at her. But if she's going to use it at all, she might as well use it right at the very beginning, and Dixon's going to look on the inside.
He's got her this time. And there's Danica right behind. So three cars in close proximity to each other, and now Dixon keeps moving further forward. Put him up to fourth position. Jamie, you've got more?
Well, both the ladies running together, Simona Di Silvestro and Danica Patrick, both on this similar fuel strategy. They're going to have to pit around lap 65. Right now, not saying a lot on the radio. Their cars are working, but they are definitely having a battle. Simona, her second ever IndyCar race, and of course, Danica Patrick's been in the league a while.
Yeah, and I'm sure that Simona would love to finish ahead of Danica. She knows that Danica gets a lion's share of the publicity, and this is a great way for her to put her name out there. Seeing if either one uses push to pass. It doesn't look like it on this lap.
No, Danica was close, but makes you wonder. You see that she has not used it whatsoever so far this race. So is there a situation where maybe she could have pushed that and got a little closer to Simona and made the pass? But work hard in the infield throughout all this tight stuff. Get close through turn 13 and 14. As you watch the Firestone telemetry, you can see how slow some of these turns are. All staying in second gear through all this tight stuff. Remember, blind turns here. You can't see what's around the corner. Here's a difficult one. Going through 9, the road falls off because the crown on the road, but you want power down to get this run down this back straightaway. Through the kink, you'll get up to about 150 miles an hour here. Hard on the brakes, down to second gear. Watch the wall on the right-hand side. Comes up so close.
Let's check back in with our race leader, Will Power. He has about a 2.5-second lead over second place, Justin Wilson. E.J. Vizo's another 2 seconds back in third. And Scott Dixon is the man on the move. He has fought his way back to fourth. And there you see as he is closing in on Vizo. Let's get more on Scott Dixon, Vince.
Well, Marty, it's been an eventful day for Dixon as well. Remember, he had to come in and change that front wing after some damage with the contact with Mario Moraes. You noted a moment ago that he has the banner that is stuck on the front nose wing as well. Scott Dixon has won 7 times on the road and street courses. He's always one of those guys that you're going to have to beat here at St. Pete, and anytime you're turning right and left. And they're also talking about they're doing just fine on fuel. They're always conscious of their fuel mileage. Rick DeBrule.
E.J. Vizo was hoping for a little better fuel mileage. Now that he's got Scott Dixon behind him, the team has told him, go ahead and fight. Do what you have to do. Stay out front. Remember, it was a few years ago he got his best career finish here of 4th. He'd like to see that even better today.
Vizo making the switch over to KV Racing this year, one of 3 cars on that team. And he has got his hands full right now with a closing Scott Dixon. Let's check in again on the Firestone lap leaders because we've had 7 different leaders today, and Dixon is on the top of that list, 21, but Will Power up front right now at 15 and counting. And remember, you've got bonuses involved as he considers what might be. And remember, we talked about the beginning of the race. This is one of those races where Dixon felt he lost the championship last year. Speaking of Will Power, he's got even more banners. He's got them on the mirror, both wings, but it's not affecting the performance of the car.
Well, as long as they don't come anywhere inside the cockpit or above and on your shield whatsoever. I had that at one place down there in Miami years ago, and boy, it just throws a fright into you very quickly.
Well, that or the airbox intake, that would not be very good either. They come down the front straightaway. Let's get an update on Justin Wilson. Jamie Little.
Well, he's quietly sitting there in second. He has yet to lead a lap today. Now, this is another driver on a new team this year. Dennis Reinbold, the owner of the team, told me they are so excited to have this driver on board. He's really taken the leadership role and helped Mike Conway, his teammate, out. Now, he started 4th on the day. The car is good, but his idea right now for the perfect strategy is to stay with Will Power, and that looks like that's going to bring him in around lap 65.
Thank you for the update, Jamie. And Wilson continues to motor around here and maintaining the gap. I mean, it's now about 3 seconds. So Will Power right now in control of this race with the 22 of Justin Wilson second, E.J. Vizo in third, and we are 40 laps to go here on the streets of St. Petersburg as Will Power looks to go 2 in a row. Can he do it after winning in Brazil? Well, stay with us and find out. I want to remind you, coming up next on ESPN2, we've got the NHRA 4-wide Nationals. They got rain yesterday. Everything got rain yesterday all around the country, even golf. NASCAR Now Roundtable, 6 Eastern. That's today on ESPN2. And then on ESPN next Saturday at 3:30 Eastern, we'll have the NASCAR Nationwide Series from Nashville. And the next stop on the IZOD IndyCar Series is in Alabama, Sunday, April 11th, 3 Eastern, over on Versus. All right, let's reset this for you as Will Power now holds the lead as we complete lap number 62 of 100. It's about a 4-second margin over Justin Wilson, and that's what 4 seconds look like on the racetrack. E.J. Vizo is running in third, and closely behind is 4th place is Scott Dixon, and it is still a good battle for 5th. That was Simona Di Silvestro and Danica Patrick. Then a little bit further back, you've got Rafa Matos with mirrors full of Tony Kanaan, Ryan Briscoe, and whoa, he took a look outside. Cannot make it through. Now, we were talking about Briscoe there. He's got Castroneves right behind him. They're 9th and 10th. Remember, they last pitted on lap 49. That's the latest of anybody in the field. So here comes Kanaan taking another peek on the inside.
They just fly through that section there, and you have to have a great run out of 2 and 3 if you're going to make that move on the inside of 4. But, boy, you need to be very confident that you can get it done without taking both the other driver and yourself out.
Okay, Will Power up front. Look at the gap back to second place, Justin Wilson. And the question is, when is somebody going to blink and pit? E.J. Vizo's the first to blink. So he comes in. Vizo last pitted on about lap 27. Rick, it's all yours.
E.J. Vizo is playing the fuel game and hoping to get in, get out. The problem, they're probably going to need a little bit of luck. They're putting primaries on. They may need a little longer window, some yellows to make it the rest of the distance. Jamie?
We'll pick it up right up here in the booth, and you can see there goes Tony Kanaan a little bit further back. The white mirrors of Briscoe. There's Castroneves going under Matos. Here comes Conway looking as well. Matos hangs on, and then there's contact, and Conway's into the barrier.
He could have done that if it had run a wider arc all the way through that turn, but he just cut across the bow of the car. That's beside you. You can't do that.
Full course, caution is exactly what E.J. Vizo needed, and he just gets it as soon as he comes back out onto the racetrack.
Because my calculations, he could be anywhere from 2 to 4 laps short of fuel by doing that stop that he did. So that certainly helps him now, and it's going to become a very busy pit lane.
And we are right on the cusp here. We talked to the guys. They were thinking that 34 laps was about as far as we could go, but we have seen some guys, depending on the yellow and depending on how hard they are on the throttle, stretch it a little bit further. Let's take another look at it.
Now, in this situation here, you got to believe the guy's just not going to go away. Run it too wide through there. Don't push him over the curbing. And for Rafa, he has nowhere to go, and the guy that pays the price for that is Conway. He could have just run a wide line through there because the next couple of turns coming up are all right-hand turns. And then for Rafa, he probably would have had to turn around and get off the throttle going through 6, 7, 8, and 9. But you can see that scenario there. He's up over the alligator bumps and couldn't do anything to help Conway.
On board with Ryan Hunter-Reay.
See a collection of cars up front. Ryan's going to see it, and he knows something's happening. He got off the gas, stayed off the gas because he's a veteran. He understands 2 cars can't fit where only one can go.
So our 4th caution here at St. Petersburg for Mike Conway's incident as he gets close contact with Rafa Matos, and it tightens up the field once again, and now we'll find out, I would imagine that everybody else that hasn't pitted is going to at this point, because it'll be a race to the finish.
Everybody seems to be laid out in pit lane. You would think that would be the smartest move. This race has been great, Marty. There's been a lot of battles going on through the field, but the next battle is going to happen here on pit lane once the pits are opened up.
So pits are closed right now. That's why nobody is taking. Didn't want to give you any false impressions that, oops, nobody's coming in. There you can see the marker lets the drivers know before they get into turn 13, 14 that the pit road is closed.
And the pressure now comes on the pit crew because they have to put those tires on and fuel without any mistakes. Some last-minute tire adjustments going on for tire pressure from some of the teams. Track conditions are changing here very quickly, very rapidly.
And again, remember, the big winners here could be E.J. Vizo, the biggest of all. Also remember, it was Dario Franchitti pitting back on lap 54. I still think he's definitely going to have to come one more time. But Vizo, with this yellow, should be able to go the distance. He could cycle through and have the race lead by the time we go back to green flag racing.
He's currently sitting in 14th position. A driver that has a lot of ability, has had some ups and downs in the last couple of years and had some run-ins with other drivers on the racetrack. Certainly has the ability to go very fast, is very likable. And the thing that I can remember about him a couple of years ago at Indianapolis was throughout the rain, he was bored, so he went in town and found himself a unicycle. And he taught himself how to ride it up and down the garage area in Indianapolis. So he's a bit of a different guy, but certainly has a lot of speed when he sits behind the wheel. We're going to find out now how his mental toughness is for these last part of this race.
His best finish, as you heard earlier, 4th in his career here at St. Petersburg back in 2008. But he could be sitting in the catbird seat in just a matter of moments.
And we talked before about the KV team, how it really came on late last year, maybe entered itself in being maybe the 3rd strongest team behind Ganassi and Penske, and they are very close now on par with Andretti.
So as the cars come around, turn 13, 14, everybody is coming down, so let's send it to Jamie Little.
And Justin Wilson kept it out there one extra lap because he wants to stay with the leader of Will Power. So Justin, the car is good, has not said a word on the radio. They're going to stick with blacks and lock them down, Vince.
Will Power get the blacks on, the fresh blacks. He's led more laps than any other driver today, topping it off on fuel. He goes the distance from here, and he gets out first. Will Power will keep the lead at St. Pete.
Race off pit road, as you can see, everybody falling into line. It can get very tricky here at St. Petersburg. It's very narrow. Now, we can tell you that several cars did stay out. So here is, as far as the race off pit road, Will Power, Ryan Briscoe, the big winner, with 4 positions. And then on back, Di Silvestro loses 4 and Danica loses 2. Rick, give us an update on what happened on Danica's pit stop.
very clean pit stop, but notice that they are taking a gamble. They have put reds on. You see them right there, the red tires. They're gambling if that is going to be the strategy to go right now. Obviously, some of the other people not going that way. In fact, Simona Di Silvestro was trying to copy that strategy. At the last second, she decided not to put the reds on, but Danica's gone with them. It'll be interesting to see what that does in terms of her ability to keep up and then stay with the guys ahead.
Let's go back, and here is Will Power's crew on this final pit stop, as they really did a good job, and they know it.
So hard to pass at this race course, so if you can help and assist your driver by doing a great pit stop as they did, they feel the pride in that.
We can tell you that Vitor Meira stayed out, and so he will assume the race lead. I'm sorry, to what now? And as we continue under this caution, let's give you some moments of Indy Lights highlights as we head to commercial break.
Here we go. The yellow and white car of Hinchcliffe gets the early jump, and he's going to lead the field down into turn number 1. They spread out 4 and 5 wide behind him, and now we have contact. Hinchcliffe makes contact and is run off. Here we go back to green. Vernay's going to take a look to the inside of the Lucas Oil car, and he's going to get him even before they get to turn number 1.
Checkered flag is out. J.K. Vernay.
ESPN's coverage of the IZOD IndyCar Series at St. Petersburg is presented by IZOD, the official apparel sponsor of the IZOD IndyCar Series, available at Macy's. And GoDaddy.com, where you can make the web your domain with a .com name for less than $1 a month.
A street course is really, you've got to be very accurate with the car, and some of the corners you're almost, and sometimes you do touch the wall.
You can't see over them, you can't see through them, so you're turning into these corners blind. You just hope that there's no car there when you get around the corner.
You're putting a lot of energy in going left and right. You know, you're pulling a lot of G's.
Your hands do take a beating. You've still got a couple of scabs from Brazil.
Your wrist, your lower back, your butt, your neck. I mean, everything. There is not one muscle in your body that it's not working.
And anybody who doesn't think you have to be fit to be a race car driver, just try it sometimes, folks. It is very punishing. Vitor Meira is the race leader, and we're still trying to figure out why he stayed out, because he last pitted on lap 34. He's going to have to stop again. And nobody else behind him does.
Well, it plays right into hands of Viso, and when you look at the cars behind Meira, between Viso, Will Power, Justin Wilson, Briscoe, Dixon, Castroneves, Tagliani, and Danica Patrick. I mean, no matter what's going on here so far this race, everybody seems to be up front ready for this battle, Rick DeBrule.
Yeah, it's all about fuel at this point. They're telling him to go to fuel as late as possible, but the goal, try and conserve a little bit, but they think he can possibly go to the end.
Well, by our calculations, he should be able to, as we're getting ready to go back to green flag racing with only 31 laps remaining, and this time by it'll now be 30 as the green flag flies once again at St. Petersburg. And Meira gets a good jump on Viso. Hang on, here comes Dixon taking a peek. Can't get anything done. Now a little bit further back. That's Rafa Matos going right in front of Di Silvestro. And there's Ryan Hunter-Reay trying to pick up a spot. The snake winds its way down towards turn number 4, and everybody seems to have made it through okay. And look at all the slicing and dicing back there.
You saw the bright yellow car there with Graham Rahal starting to make some moves, trying to get things done.
Tony Kanaan in that mix as well. There's Ryan Hunter-Reay, Rahal, Tony Kanaan. Down that long straightaway towards turn number 10. Dario Franchitti a little bit further back. Rahal looking underneath, takes the position away. Look out, then, oh, mercy, that was close.
And that was two teammates also with Andretti Autosport. Would not have been very popular back in the garage area after today if they had taken each other out. But Marco tried to make it move, but he got over the alligator bumps. At least there was some room there for him.
Nothing has changed up front. Meira is still your race leader. This has been where the action has been, so further back in the field on this early lap after the restart. And that is the 10 of Dario Franchitti getting underneath. And now here comes Marco trying to fight his way back. Now that is for 15th on the racetrack. It gives you an idea just how deep the field is. Here in this race at St. Petersburg, we have seen position changes all morning and now afternoon. All right, let's get an update on the strategy on that 14 car, because Vince, by our calculations, we know he's got to pit one more time.
That's exactly right, Marty. That yellow came at the worst possible time for this Vitor Meira team. And remember, here's why they wanted that pit stop to come later in this race, because he's got to go to the red tires yet. He has not run the softer compound, the reds, and they're concerned about the life of those tires if they put them on for the longer stint. So you see that the ABC supply car has pulled off the racetrack onto pit lane. So Vitor Meira will come back down. He relinquishes the lead, but they've got to put on the red tires. He has not run those yet. The softer compound tires, hasn't run those yet today, and you've got to run those at least 2 green flag laps during a race. So it's a 4-tire change in fuel, obviously, for Vitor. He's got plenty of fuel to go to the end now, obviously, but the timing of that yellow flag really cost this 14 team.
And now as he pulls back out, it means E.J. Vizo takes over the lead with Will Power second, Justin Wilson third, Ryan Briscoe fourth, and Scott Dixon fifth. Elio Castroneves is sixth. Look at what happened. What's wrong with Vizo? All of a sudden, Vizo pulls over. He can't be out of fuel.
No, and he's got to keep tight around the race course. Otherwise, he's going to take somebody out going through there. But a smart move to pull over to the inside. Now, will they get through this 135-mile-an-hour chicane without hitting?
Unbelievable. Di Silvestro, Ray Hall, now Ryan Hunter-Ray. And now he's got to try and make it over to get into pit lane.
Oh, why is he staying on the track? Probably just couldn't get over. This might cause a full course yellow. Certainly will help Vitor Meira get back up to the tail end of the group.
And look at Ray Hall trying to go underneath Di Silvestro, and then Ryan Hunter-Ray makes contact, and Di Silvestro goes around.
Oh, Ryan Hunter-Ray, what a great move. Avoided Simona. That was happening all in front of him so quickly. Now here comes that full course yellow.
Still green right now. They have not shown the full yellow. He's trying to see if she can get refired, and I don't think she stalled it. So without having the starter on board, she's going to need some help.
Well, this is going to be tight. They may try and dispatch the Hamaltro crew to get over there and get her started, but here we go. That's at the end of the long straightaway, Marty. You cannot take a chance down there.
So our fifth full course caution, and we're still trying to figure out what happened to E.J. Vizo, his best chance at victory. And Rick, what's the latest? What are they telling you?
It sounds like it is something in the gearbox. Not totally sure, but that is what EJ is saying from the car. He believes it's a problem with the gearbox. You can imagine the frustration of this team. EJ had his best career finish here back in 08, finishing fourth. They thought they smelled victory because of the fuel strategy, and now as a result of what may be a mechanical problem, it is done.
Rick, we're going to interrupt as Scott Dixon has hit the wall. And we don't know exactly where that is on the race course.
Oh, I think he hit the inside wall on the right front wheel from the damage I saw in the car. And then he went off and hit the wall itself. Now, let's watch to see how this goes. Watch the right front wheel. Hits right there and goes off into the outside wall. We've seen that quite a few times with drivers here, because when the car sits stationary, you can see that the right front wheel has been broken. That's usually by clipping that inside wall.
That is turn 9 2 years ago. The same thing happened to Tony Kanaan in a qualifying session. And look at the speed bumps that have occurred to some of our top names here. Elio 20th, Dario 19th, Ryan 23rd, and now Dixon 22nd in 08, 16th last year, and now another tough break. And here is E.J. Vizo. He has finally nursed it back to pit lane, and the engine's look at him just shaking his head. He can't believe it. Cannot believe it.
Well, we talked about how this will help Meira get back up to the back end of the crew, but right now EJ is not down a lap, but the group is starting to come back through the back section, and if they don't get this fixed and get him out, then he's going to turn around and go down a lap.
So Simona gets refired. She'll get back out there. And let's get caught up with Jimmy Vasser. He's with Vince.
Jimmy, any indication as to what happened with EJ's car?
Yeah, he came on the radio and said something with the gearbox, which is really unusual because the things are pretty much bulletproof. Just very disappointing for the guys. The whole team was doing a great job. We put ourselves in a position there, good to go from the end. Caught that yellow. EJ was doing a great job, but just very, very disappointing.
Heartbreaker for the KV group.
It really is. I mean, since coming over a couple of years ago after unification, this team has been working their way up as here comes Simona into pit lane, and heartbreaking end for their day. Let's go back and show you while she gets ready to get a new nose put on. Take you back and show you what happened once again down in turn 1.
Turn 1 is always a very busy spot. Now let's watch the screen to see what happens. She starts to get turned in. Rahal is there, and then Rahal drives over the front of the nose. I thought she did a good job trying to give a little bit away, but now watch what happens. Rahal's just got his car going around just a bit too much, can't get it slowed down, ticks the back of her car, knocks it around. You'll see his left front wheel come in and just hit the right rear of her car, sends her around a little bit. She did a great job, Marty. She was giving some space to the Dollar General machine. Now we're going to go on board here with Ryan Hunter-Reay. And he's trying to follow in with Rahal because he thinks he might get through, but Ryan Hunter-Reay does a great job of moving around. There's no thinking going on there. That's just instinct.
So Simona gets the new nose and heads back out onto the race course. And while we've got a moment, let's talk about the NCAA Women's Championship because it's going to continue on ESPN tonight. We've got the regional final action. Number 4, Baylor against number 2, Duke at 7. Then at 9, Xavier against the number 1 rated Stanford team. And that is going to be the NCAA Women's Championship presented by Capital One on ESPN tonight. And look at the crowd that has come out for the race. Tip of the hat, as we mentioned once before, to everybody here in the St. Petersburg area and to the city for allowing the race to continue into an extra day. All the businesses that are affected, thank you very much. We do appreciate it. And let's get a chance to catch up with Scott Dixon, a very disappointed Scott Dixon, Jamie.
Yeah, he's just walking down the pit lane by himself right now. Scott, what happened there?
Just the car was fantastic. Target team had done a great job all weekend. I made a mistake hitting Sato there, obviously ruining his day as well. We had to come in for another wing, and we fought our way back. I think we're sitting about 4th, so the car was really good. And I just clipped the inside wall at 9, and it threw me out on the exit there and damaged the car pretty bad. So 2 mistakes on my part, and unfortunately no points.
Another bad finish for you, as you mentioned, points. Is it too early to be thinking about championship?
Yeah, well, you do, because it's so tight now and the competition's very tough, and anything you can give up, like we did at the start of last year, it hurt us at the end. So if we had those valuable points, the championship could have been totally different. So I don't know, we'll have to hopefully try and get some points in Birmingham.
All right, thanks. That's Scott Dixon. Marty?
Well, and there's one other big event that these guys point towards this early in the season, and not just the championship. And of course, we're talking about the Indianapolis 500. Elio Castroneves will try to become the 4th 4-time winner. Team Penske will be going for its 16th win. We'll have 5 women drivers looking to make the field. It will be May 30th, noon on ABC. Mark the calendar right now. And guess who's driving the pace car? Good Morning America's Robin Roberts, a former employee of ESPN. And she's looking forward to that. She's going to do a great job.
That should be very interesting. I just also read a note this morning that Andretti Autosport will announce a 5th entry for the Indianapolis 500 down at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway this Wednesday. So their group is going to grow.
All right, as we get ready to go back to green flag racing, we talked about the fact Danica had not used the push to pass. We listened in on the radio conversation. Here's why.
Fuel now. I can use overtake as much as I want.
Take it easy now. You're being a bit greedy this early. Just relax here. Let our engineers work on this for a second.
Okay.
Tom Anderson.
All good for a gunfight here after it goes green.
I'm a race car driver. I want to go as fast as possible, and I want it now.
And there's Michael Andretti looking on. He's calling the shots on Tony Kanaan's car. Let's set this for you. It's Will Power first, Justin Wilson second, Ryan Briscoe third, Elio Castroneves fourth, Alex Tagliani fifth, Danica Patrick sixth, Rafa Mato seventh, Ray Hall eighth, Kanaan and Franchitti round out your top 10. Jamie?
Well, I wanted to talk about push to pass and who else has a lot to use up, and that is Ryan Briscoe. Before it went green last time, they told him he had 18 left, and they expect him to use it. He is good on fuel. He has 4 blacks bolted on there. He has worked his way. Remember, he qualified poorly in the back. He has worked his way up to third, so keep your eye on the 6 car.
Now, the push to pass that are left are running across the ticker. So Briscoe now has used it 3 more times. He's down to 15. Castroneves has 13. Tagliani only has 8. Danica has 16 remaining. That gives you an idea of what that is at the top of your screen. Here we go. Will Power leads them out of turns 13 and 14. Green flag will be in the air, and we'll be back to racing here in St. Petersburg with 22 laps to go.
Marty, I got to tell you, that is the most strung-out restart I have ever seen, and all those guys all the way behind Power need to learn what's going on, because you got to take advantage of it, as Danica Patrick is trying to do right now, and Alex Tagliani. Those guys just gave up a lot of real estate by not being in queue and tight going into the last turn.
She tried to take a peek on the inside of Tagliani, was not able to get it done. Now the snake down towards turn 4. They missed that bump down there at the beginning of the roadway because it is very severe. It can take your fillings right out of your teeth.
And also been here since the very first time we came here in 2005.
Heading down towards turn number 10, Will Power with Justin Wilson. Boy, would Dreyer Reinbold love to see Wilson go to victory in his second race for that team. Third place, Ryan Briscoe. Remember, he won here last year. Here comes Briscoe. Right behind him, Elio Castroneves. Then Tagliani. Then Danica. And they're going by so fast I can't give you the rest of them as they zip on past us. All right, let's zero in on the battle for third, because it's getting a little closer, although the teammates now space it out a little more.
Castroneves, remember, he has won here twice, was not in this race last year because he was still dealing with his court case and missed this race completely. Got cleared of that and then showed up at Long Beach after the first day of practice. And certainly would like to come back here and have at least a podium finish.
Another person looking for a podium finish, Danica Patrick. Remember, it has been a very hard weekend for that team. And a couple of cars back, Graham Rahal looking to secure some sponsor dollars to complete the season. He's got a 2-race deal with Sarah Fisher Racing, and right now doing an excellent job running 8th.
You're right. It's got that Dollar General machine up there running 8th, and that is impressive because they have gone through a host of problems this weekend. As our Rick DeBrule was mentioning early, they changed everything on that thing except the kitchen sink, and I give him a lot of credit for driving the wheels off that thing. They will learn, they will improve, and make it better. Ryan Hunter-Ray, another one of those Andretti Autosport drivers, very competitive. All in the queue here. Are we going to start using our push to pass? Let's watch.
Well, and Hunter Ray's down to 5, so he is burning them up, trying to fight his way because he knows it's go time. We have 20 laps remaining on this 1.8-mile circuit. Vince, what's the latest on Ryan?
Well, Ryan Hunter-Ray's been working with this race car throughout the course of the day, just trying to get it to be a little more comfortable. It hasn't been handling to his liking, and this is a guy that already feels the pressure with that IZOD logo on his car. IZOD, of course, the title sponsor of the series and also the sponsor on his car. And Ryan Hunter-Ray told me this weekend, he said, I feel like we've got to perform every week. We don't have a full season deal. We need people to come on board from a sponsorship standpoint, and to do that, I've got to perform. And then you toss in the fact that IZOD is on the car. He said, I feel a lot of pressure to do well, but I'd say, guys, he's standing up quite well under that pressure. He was second at Brazil and running in the top half again today.
Yeah, he's all over. You can see Franchitti right in front of him, and that's Tony Kanaan just 2 cars up.
If you look at the names that are in this field, Marty, I mean, all the way through, there is nobody here that you would not say is capable of winning this race. I mean, all the way through the top 10 and even further on, Ryan Hunter-Ray is in 11th, Andretti is in 12th. It just goes on. It's so thick. To be able to make up a spot on the racetrack is so difficult because everybody is just so strong in this series right now, so competitive.
Well, we've tied for the most leaders in this race at 8. We've broken the record for lead changes. The old record was 9. We now have 10. Does that give you an idea how balanced the field is this year? Move our coverage up to another man who's going to be making a full season run. That's Alex Tagliani right there in the 77. As you can see, he is running just ahead of Danica Patrick in 5th, Rick DeBrule.
And they used a little pit strategy to do that. In the last stop, he came in and got fuel only, did not change the tires. As a result, they've told him, you've got to watch those tires. You've got to make sure that you don't abuse them during this last stint. But another guy who's had a big change over the last season, he's now part of this team in terms of being a team owner, looking to get as good a finish as he can today to project for the rest of the season. And so far, the strategy is working. But once again, he has to make sure he babies those tires as much as possible. And with Danica right behind him, like you can see, that's not going to be easy.
Alex, the pride of La Chennai, Quebec, the only Canadian in the series. 10 countries represented, 6 from Brazil, 4 from the U.S., and 4 from England. 2 from Australia, Venezuela, and Japan, and 1 from New Zealand, Switzerland, Canada, and Scotland. That gives you the balance. As we look back towards the race lead, and look at Justin Wilson. He is closing down the gap now, as it is down under a second. In fact, it looks about maybe 3/10 of a second.
Well, his last lap was about 3/10 of a second faster than Will Power. So has he been conserving his tires and starting to ready to get close to him just to be able to push? We've got 82 out of 100 laps done right now, but not using the push to pass. But you can be assured that if it gets very close here at the end, the drivers will have their button on their finger on the button. Remember, it lasts for 12 seconds. It takes 10 seconds to reset. So you might be able to use it around here about 3 times per lap.
17 laps remaining. And Will Power trying to take back-to-back wins on the street circuits of first Brazil and now St. Petersburg. Justin Wilson wants to deny him that privilege and give Dreyer Reinbold its first win of the season, and first with its new driver. A little further back, Ryan Briscoe. Remember, he caught a break earlier in this race as he pitted, and then all of a sudden the yellow came out, allowed him to cycle through. Right behind him is Elio Castroneves in 4th, and we talked about Alex Tagliani in 5th. And right behind is the 7 in 6th of Danica Patrick, Rafa Matos in 7th, and Graham Rahal running in 8th, Tony Kanaan 9th, Dario Franchitti 10th.
As we look at Danica Patrick there in her GoDaddy car, you have to think last year, how many times did she, a lot of times, qualify as the front runner for the Andretti Green Team last year, and now she's up front out of all 4 cars for Andretti Autosport. Many times her finishes were the best out of anybody on that team last year.
There you see Tony Kanaan and Dario Franchitti. These guys, good friends off the racetrack, but right now, both of them trying to fight their way back and get back into the top 5 because they're running 9th and 10th, respectively. And the laps are winding down.
Well, winding down, and this is a time in the race where you're sore, you've been bounced around here. It's a very bumpy street circuit. Your hands are sore, you're sweated in your suit. You're mentally starting to get drained, and you have to really focus on each individual turn, not to make a mistake, and push yourself to get deep down into the braking zone. Squeeze on the power as quickly as possible so you don't lose a gap getting onto the straight, as we're watching right there, and making sure that you can be as close to the competitor in front. So if that competitor bobbles, you can take advantage of it.
Well, you know, we mentioned about trying to fight their way back into the top 5. Tony Kanaan is the only driver to actually run every lap of all 5 prior races here. He's always finished in the top 5 in the 5 prior events. And right now, finds himself 9th. He's got a lot of work still to do, and 15 laps remaining.
We talk about being physically fit, and we just mentioned how tiring it is. Sometimes these are the races that you get out of the car and you just sit on the side of the cockpit and just sort of regain your composure because you are so physically beat up.
On board again with Franchitti. His best finish here, 2nd back in 2005. He also has a 4th and a 5th, but in 06, remember, he had a dismal race there, finishing 19th with some damage. Now, is he going to be close enough to go after TK down this front straightaway? Will he use the push to pass?
And TK has not been that strong under the braking zone into 1. Let's see what happens. Not close enough this time.
And did not pull the trigger.
TK knew he was looking, sort of ran a little bit of an earlier line going into turn 1 to use it a bit as a blocking routine.
All right, let's check back in on the race lead. There is Will Power, and right behind him is Justin Wilson. And Justin, each lap seems to get just a little bit closer, and a lot further back is Ryan Briscoe and Elio Castroneves. Right now, if it stays green, it looks like it could be a 2-car race between these two.
and making up time, Marty, is so hard. You're pushing so much. Each individual turn, the car is on the limit of adhesion, and you have to make sure you find that adhesion just a little bit more, but not so much that the car comes out from underneath you. And Will Power knows that he's getting closer. He's on the gas very soon.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you thought they were maybe just sort of pacing a little bit right there, but that Will Power slide sort of showed you that, no, they've got the hammer down and they're going after it.
Plenty of push to pass left, as we saw in that last graphic, so they'll be holding it to the very end. Remember, they need to think about if there is another yellow, they're going to want to have lots of push to pass left in the tank. So especially on the restart and for the first couple of laps around here, after restart, you'll want to be able to have lots in reserve.
That last lap was Will Power's fastest of the race. That's how hard they're pushing. 1 minute, 3.89 seconds. Vince?
Well, and remember, this is Will Power's first full season with Team Penske, and one of the reasons that he has come into such a comfort level is the man you see on the left-hand side of the screen, Dave Faustino. That's the engineer for Will Power. They worked together at Walker in 2007 and also at KV Racing in 2008, and in fact, Derek Walker recommended Faustino to Roger Penske. They went to Will Power and said, what do you think about bringing Faustino in to be your engineer? He said, absolutely, I'd love to work with him again. And Will cites that familiarity with Faustino as being one of the key reasons he's been able to transition to this team without missing a beat, and also helping the other drivers, Helio Castroneves and Ryan Briscoe.
And if you ask Roger Penske, what's the secret to success? He will always answer first. It's about the people.
And another person that is on that team from Walker Racing is Helio's engineer, Ron Brzezinski, who was also an engineer many years ago at Walker Racing. You're right. It's all about the people and the harmony of how they work together. And remember, Derek Walker was a past employee of Roger Penske many years ago also.
Okay, the number you're seeing across the top of the screen right now, after the name, is the laps that they have run since they last made a pit stop. So that gives you an idea. You can see we move through the field. Should not be a problem as far as fuel for anybody up front. You can run it as hard as you want. They've all got enough gas to get her to the end.
Remember, this is when you have to push and get the utmost out of the car, but you are also a little bit tired. The tires are getting to be worn just enough. Maybe the best part of the tire life is actually gone. The car will slide out from underneath you just a little bit earlier than it would do if the tires were fresh. And you have to make sure you can find the optimum each and every lap, each and every turn. And we think about Alex Tagliani as he got a report on his BMW car that the tires are well used on that machine, but he's still keeping a gap to the car that's behind him, which is Danica Patrick. Tags is in 5th, and Patrick is in 6th.
And this is the first stretch of the race where we really haven't seen any position changes for, this was about a period of 3 or the last 4 laps. I mean, the most of this race has been somewhere on this racetrack. Somebody's been going after somebody's position.
And as we ride along with Danica Patrick now on her GoDaddy.com machine, you can see that she's got the red sidewalls on her car, so she has got the red tires now. They do come in much quicker. The drivers tell me that they go out in there and the car usually is on tap, ready to go the first lap. The blacks take about 2 or 3 laps to get going, but the reds fall off sooner. The blacks stay underneath you. And with this long run you're talking about, Marty, she's doing a great job battling that car to keep it up to where it is.
And we now have 10 laps remaining, and she's got Rafa Matos, and look on as Dario Franchitti's taking a look, and yes.
Yeah, we saw that TK has had some difficulty in the braking zone in 1. Have noticed that all the way through the race. Maybe the car's just not going over the bumps under braking, and right now Ryan Hunter-Reay, his teammate at Andretti Autosport, was starting to have a little bit of a look there. The drivers get their preference choice of the brake pads here. There's usually a soft and a hard brake pad that you can use, and it's up to the driver's preference of what he or she may like under braking. You get to look at all the data that you have along with the engineers to see maybe what is the best ones for you to get down to the corner under braking, but right now it doesn't seem like TK can really get that job done very well.
Yeah, and it looks like his streak of top 5 finishes here is in jeopardy at St. Petersburg. As we mentioned, he's finished in the top 5 all 5 years of this event.
Franchitti, nice line through there. Right down to the apex. Does he get on the back? Oh, look at Rahal just slicing against the wall.
Franchitti's down to 8, push to pass. Does he use one here? No. Let's get an update on Graham Rahal, Rick DeBrule.
Yeah, the car's fine right now. They've made some adjustments earlier in the day. He's running on a set of blacks. He's okay. The thing with Graham this weekend is he has felt a lot of personal pressure. Coming from the team where he's done so well, he was on the pole here last year. 2 years ago, he won. He knows he can do well on this track. He wanted to bring a lot to the team. The team said he has delivered. He has given him so much information that they were able to work with, even though they didn't feel they had the right strategy in terms of the setup going in. But as you can see, all things considered, he's in a racy position. He's doing okay right now, but he's just got to be able to hold off Franchitti.
And Rick, it's interesting. I had a chance to speak to Graham's father, Bobby Rahal, who's won the championship 3 times in the Indianapolis 500. And I said, are you helping and assisting him? And he said, no, he is doing it all his own, going out there and looking for sponsorship. He has people working for him, but he's working with them, putting together the PowerPoint presentations. He's in the boardroom making the presentation itself. And he said, I'm quite proud of him, but if he's going to do it, he's got to learn to do it on his own. Watch Franchitti.
Here comes Dario, takes a look underneath. Into the braking zone, into turn 1, and he picks up the position. So move Franchitti now up to 8th position. Bump Rahal back to 9th. Danica Patrick still trying to hold off the ever-closing Rafa Matos. And now Dario Franchitti. And I think those reds have basically fallen off because she is losing contact with Alex Tagliani in front of her.
And she's certainly holding up the queue right now. And in this situation, I think that you're going to see Franchitti, if he can have a run on Alex Tagliani, he might just get himself up there because his car seems to be working. Not too bad. Now, Tag sees in his mirror that Franchitti is getting close. Excuse me, Rafa Matos is going to end up having to look in his mirror and see that Franchitti is getting close, so he knows that he's got to get himself past Danica Patrick.
Let's see what happens coming off turn 14 here.
Rafa, just a little bit of wiggle coming off the turn. Looks like it's going to be slow going down the straight for him.
Here comes Franchitti looking on the inside of Matos. On board with Dario. Down into 1, he picks up another spot. So Franchitti, who spun on the opening lap of this race, has fought his way back and is now moved into 7th.
And so for Rafa Matos right now in that HP car, he wishes that he had got himself past Danica Patrick earlier because he knows he probably could have made some space in between there. Now he's going to have the rest of the guys chomping at the bit behind him.
So the man on the move right now is right there in that number 10. Dario Franchitti, last year's champion of the series. They head down towards turn 10.
Now with the red tires that's on Danica Patrick's car, when they start to go off a little bit, because they're a softer compound, the car starts to squirm underneath you. You try to put your foot on the gas to come out of the turn, and the car just wants to wiggle underneath you. And with the blacks that Dario Franchitti has, power down should be maybe just a little bit better.
Push to pass. Danica's down to 4. Franchitti's down to 5. He won't be able to get her on this one.
What he's got to do this lap is take the lap and start to fill the mirrors of Danica Patrick. Look on the inside and make sure that Danica knows that he is there.
Heading down towards turn 4. Danica holding off the ever pressure of Dario Franchitti. Nothing has changed up front. Will Power still leads Justin Wilson. This is the best battle we have on the racetrack. That's the idea of what's going on up front. You can see the gap. Jamie, what's the latest on Justin Wilson?
Well, 5 laps to go for Justin Wilson. He has 14 push to passes left. I asked the team, why isn't he using him? He said it's all about strategy. Justin wanted to stockpile him for the end, and he's using about 2 to 3 per lap starting now.
Well, he's going to need him because he's losing contact right now. Here comes Dario Franchitti. They come out of 14. He's got a run on Danica this time. Patrick down to 3 pushes. Franchitti to 5. And yes, he's going to dive underneath. Can she get him back? No. So Franchitti picks up another spot, moving up to 6th. And he's pulling away. Now is there enough time for Franchitti to get back into the top 5? Alex Tagliani is about 2.5 seconds ahead.
And on a street course, it's very difficult to be able to see the driver sometimes because he's already gone past around the wall. You see Frankie Tagliani's car just a little bit further ahead.
All right, about a lap ago, this is what our camera crew picked up. Watch Will Power down into turn 10.
Whoa. Just turned in a little too soon. Took it over the alligator bumps. You can see the black marks on the track. And the lap previous to that, Wilson was probably about 0.3 of a second slower. And that lap that we just completed where you saw that squiggle from Will Power, he was actually 0.5 of a second slower. So Justin Wilson has gained a half a second on him. Now, Will Power's feeling the pressure, pushing the car, and I talked about getting the car past its limit just a little bit, but you cannot make a mistake like that.
Justin Wilson trying to close the gap down into turn again. This is where the incident happened a lap or more ago, and this time nice and clean.
And remember Australia a couple of years ago with Will Power? Just running comfortably out front and back chicane going down that long straightaway, clipped the inside wall, ended up taking himself out of the race.
Wilson is down to 12. Does he hit the button again? The laps are winding down. This time by, there will be 3 laps remaining on this 1.8-mile circuit. Yes, both of them hit.
But then Will Power regained the speed again, 0.1 of a second faster than Justin Wilson.
Both hit the push-to-pass button on that last lap, so they're down to 6. And here comes Dario Franchitti. He's looking for 5th. Man, he closed that quickly on Tagliani and takes the position. The best car on the racetrack might be that number 10 of Dario Franchitti. He has picked up from 11th to 5th in the last 12 laps, 10 laps.
Remember, Tags has tires that are well worn right now, and the car would be sliding around.
So move Franchitti into the top 5. There's Alex. And let's get an update from Rick DeBrule.
Yeah, as you were mentioning, Scott, just a moment ago, he's been running on tires that are on a second stint. Remember, they didn't change last time, and all the time they kept giving him the countdown. They kept saying, Dario's coming, 2 seconds. Dario's coming, 1.5. He knew he was coming, just wasn't anything he could do.
Battle for 3rd is starting to heat up. Ryan Briscoe has got it, and Elio Castroneves wants it. Two laps remaining. Elio putting pressure on Briscoe. Down through turn 8, turn 9. Not close enough. Oh, and he gets a little wheel spin.
Road drops off just a little bit there because of the crown on the road. As the tires wear, the car will slide out from you a little bit more. What Elio's got to do, though, is be on the tail of his teammate's car going through this fast section down here through 13 and 14 and get a good run off if he wants to have a shot at passing him down the front stretch.
Team Penske running 1st, 3rd, and 4th. There you see all 4 cars as the white flag comes out. 1 lap remaining for Will Power to make it 2 in a row and to make another statement that, boys, you're going to have to deal with me on the road and street courses if you want to go for the championship. Briscoe used another push to pass to hold off Elio.
And the next place that he will use one will probably be down the side straight or on the front stretch coming out of the last turn.
And look at the freight train now closing on Alex Tagliani. He is in 6th. There's Danica running in 7th. Rahal taking a peek underneath. Can't get it done on Rafa Matos. Then Tony Kanaan is behind Rahal. We can tell you that Danica Patrick has burned the final push to pass, so she's on her own from here on out, and those red tires have lost a lot of their grip. Meanwhile, here comes Will Power into turns 13 and 14 for Team Penske. Will Power is going to come home, back-to-back wins, his 3rd win in the IZOD.
Nice job, Mr. Power, nice job. He won.
Watch for the pass for 3rd, maybe? No.
Good job, guys.
Does he get him? No. They come across the line with Briscoe holding off Castroneves. Here comes Tagliani as he comes around. It will be Dario Franchitti coming across the line in 5th in just a matter of a moment. Does she hold on to the position for 7th? Because here's Tagliani. Then it'll be Danica.
Oh, yeah. Good job, kid. Good. Great job.
Oh, that was really fun.
So as they come across the line, Will Power picks up his third IZOD IndyCar Series win in his 24th series start. Second win in a row, as we mentioned. And Penske finishes 1, 3, and 4. Only Justin Wilson denying them a sweep of the podium. Want to remind you, we're running just a tad long. NHRA 4-wide nationals are coming up immediately as soon as we get off the air. And you don't want to miss this, because in the funny car final, Ashley, Force, Father John, 2 of the 4 competitors. And if you didn't see it yesterday or in qualifying on Saturday, 4 wide going down the quarter mile is pretty cool. Let's check in with Jamie Little.
Clive Howell, the strategist for Will Power. 2 races, 2 wins this weekend. You guys did what most have never done, and that is dominate. You guys were at the top of the speed chart, start to finish. Where are you beating your competition?
Well, you have a fast driver and you get lucky a few times. You know, it's been wet, 2 weekends in a row, so it mixes it up for everybody a little bit. But, it all boils down to the driver. It's a fast guy, You can make a lot of mistakes with a fast guy. Covers up a lot of stuff.
All right, a little bit of luck, a fast driver, great race team. They are back home in victory lane, Marty.
And it's only the second time in series history a driver has opened the season with back-to-back wins. The last to do it, a young man by the name of Sam Hornish Jr. back in 2001. Will making his way back down pit lane. There is Danica climbing out of the cockpit of her car. And not a bad performance for Danica today. Remember, she started 21st. The car was not handling all that well. Comes back to finish in 7th.
And again, she's the top driver from Andretti Autosport. As we mentioned, top driver many times last year, and she finished 5th in the points championship. So great job for her this weekend.
But the man of the hour is Will Power. And it's 2 in a row. As we said, he is making a statement with 9 races in the series this year on the street and road courses. He has inserted himself as one of the guys, if indeed the guy, to beat. I mean, we get ready for Indianapolis, of course, but right now he is on a streak.
Well, on these road and street circuits, I think absolutely. Kansas might be a little bit different. His teammates might have more experience there, but everybody in the paddock knows that this is a very special talent behind the wheel.
Well, if he can get better on the ovals, he's going to be a holy terror, so to speak, because right now he is the man on the road and street circuits. Vince, let's send it down to you.
Well, last week he won at Brazil by leading just 4 laps. Today, a much more dominating performance for Will Power and the Verizon crew. And Will, if last week's Helio Castroneva is coming in, and as you may know, Will Power, a full-time driver for Penske for the first time this season. If last win at Brazil, gave you the confidence that you were back and you were healthy again and you could be fast, what does this win do for you?
Oh, man, it's just great. It's Verizon's first year and first full season, and we're out to win the championship. So really happy for all the Verizon guys and my crew, and perfect pit stop, good race, perfect weekend, pole and a win. Can't get much better than that.
Late in the race after that final pit stop, EJ Viso was ahead of you there. What went through your mind as you saw him start to slow down?
Yeah, well, I knew he had to save fuel, but then he had a problem in the end anyway. But, yeah, man, that was close. It sounded like his gearbox broke, and, I didn't want to nail him from behind. I knew Wilson would be coming, so I picked a side and went for it.
Will Power, the winner at St. Petersburg. Let's go to Jamie Little.
And Justin Wilson finishes second, says, do I really have to go behind him again? Yes, you finished second. Take us through this race, though. You had a different strategy working than the winner, Will Power.
Yeah, we were just in that last stint running flat out, but earlier on there's 2 strategies working out, whether you do a 3-stop or 2-stop, and just trying to make the most of it. We're pushing hard, and everyone on the Brian Reinbold team did a great job in that last pit stop and leaped the Z-Line design car up until we were behind Will. So that put us in the best position. From then on, it was just trying to put Will under some kind of pressure. I could see him getting sideways a few times, but just not enough to get a run.
And I may note, you guys were almost out of fuel when you came in for that last stop. But let's talk about the push to pass. You saved 14 with 5 to go. Larry Curry coming in, your strategist. You saved twice as many as the man who won. Was that the right move?
Well, I thought I couldn't quite use it to get by people, so I was saving it up for the last stint where I could really push hard and, see if I could make a difference that way. But, it didn't quite work out today. The straights aren't quite long enough, but I had fun. Like I said, the Z-Line Designs car was working great, and the team did a fantastic job. So I think we've taken a lot from this race. We've learned a lot, we've improved, and we can move forwards.
All right, Justin Wilson brings it home second. Let's go over to Rick.
When I was sitting here talking with Ryan Briscoe, he asked me, what was I doing before this? I think I was waiting for you to get here to Victory Lane. Let's talk about your weekend. Didn't start off so great. Not quite the qualifying you wanted, but you said the race strategy worked for you.
Yeah, it worked out great. Qualifying was a mess for us. I think we underestimated the competition at the field. It's so tough out there, and there are so many fast cars and drivers. We just had the wrong tyre on in qualifying, and we ended up on the 10th row, so it was a bit of a shock. We'd been quick in practice, so we knew we'd have a good car for the race. And we had a plan going in. We were going to do the opposite to the leaders. We were going to get off sequence, and that way we'd be able to turn some quick laps with some clear track and make up track position. And it worked out beautifully for us. We pitted early. Got out there on my own, and it was tricky while it was still a bit damp, but we kept all four wheels on the island, and it felt great at the end of the race to be up the front there in the top three, and really happy for Will Power as well.
Don't you love when you have a plan and it actually works?
Yeah, it doesn't always work that way, but after Brazil, I was just telling myself to be a bit calm out there, and we need to get the points for the championship, and hopefully we can get them back one race at a time here.
Just got to knock off that teammate of yours.
Yeah, well, he's doing a great job, and we're all learning from each other, and I'm learning a hell of a lot from him too.
All right, over to Vince.
With Helio Castroneves as Team Penske gets 3 of the top 4 spots today. You just missed podium with a 4th place finish. What did you need in your car that maybe you just didn't quite have to get to the podium today?
Well, man, hold on. There's a little bug here. You don't want the bug go in your mouth.
Well, don't throw it at me.
No, sorry. Well, you know what? It's one of those things. All the top 5 guys have so equal. It was like we're talking about 10th, probably so small lap times. And for us, I was just trying to be consistent, pushing Ryan, trying to see if he would make a mistake or something like that. The push-to-pad works really, really well. But again, when you got in that side of the field, it was really, really hard to keep it up, but Will did a great job, Wilson as well, and my teammate Ryan. So now we'll keep going like that, we'll keep working, getting points, which is very important for the championship. We just have to stop the guy, man. What's going on with Will Power? He has too much power. We have to stop that.
He's got all the power. He's Will Power. Nice run for Helio Castroneves today, finishes 4th. Jamie?
And Danica, great day considering she started 21st. She ends up 7th. Talking it over with your crew. New race strategist, just second race together. What do you think of the calls and how you guys communicated today?
Yeah, Tom Anderson, he's calling my races now, and everybody did a great job. I mean, we were definitely starting in the back, and we had to take some chances, and probably one of the first chances we had to take on the GoDaddy car was having those black tires on when it was still wet out, which those things were taking like 4 or 5 laps to come in when the track was good and fine and hot outside. So, I was way too conservative. I just didn't want to do something dumb in the first 10 laps. And, then it was just about saving fuel. So we saved a bunch of fuel, and luckily we were able to go through and stay out there till that last yellow or the second to last yellow because, they had told me L3, L2, L1 again, stay out there. And that's when the yellow came out. So, it was really good to get the GoDaddy car a decent finish today. And, we want more still, but we were working out there on those reds, man. They didn't last very long, but I did everything I could to maintain the grip level, taking it easy through the fast corners, and I know I was holding up a big line of cars, but it's what I had to do, and I got into position and I maintained.
All right, that's Danica Patrick. Let's go to Rick.
And one of those cars able to get by, Dario Franchitti. It wasn't a great weekend, but all things considered, it didn't end too badly for you.
No, with me screwing up on the first lap there and then getting a flat tire later on in the race there, to come back for a 5th place finish, we'll take it. Great job by the Target boys today in the old Cottonelle car, and we did our best, and we'll come and try and get them next week.
All right, Dario Franchitti, not too bad.
Well, let's take a look at our IZOD IndyCar Series point standings, because that man right there, Will Power, is in command right now. But look at the log jam for second place. Dario, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Justin Wilson, all 44 markers behind. You can see that Rafa Matos is in 5th, on down through 10th place to Danica Patrick. So, quick thought.
Will Power is here. 2 more road courses before we go to Oval, and he's going to learn a little bit come Oval time, and especially at Indianapolis, but he is certainly going to be in contention.
And, of course, Indianapolis, May 30th. Our next action will be at Kansas, May 1st at 1:30 p.m. Eastern on ABC. Congratulations once again to our race winner, Will Power. And coming up next, the NHRA 4-Wide Nationals. You don't want to miss this. If you didn't see it yesterday or on qualifying Saturday, it was spectacular. For our entire ESPN crew, Scott Goodyear, Rick DeBrule, Jamie Little, Vince Welch, I'm Marty Reed. Till we meet again. Bye for now.